In the quiet of his room, he sat facing the television as the broadcast began. The news announced breaking coverage as his eye focused on the screen. At 8 p.m. that evening, the report stated that S-class wizard Lee Seo-jun was killed in action. He watched the broadcast and questioned whether Lee Seo-jun had died. The report explained that Lee Seo-jun had been fighting the evil dragon that appeared in downtown Seoul and was reportedly killed while suppressing Kruas. It continued that Lee Seo-jun, age 25, had debuted as a wizard in 2034 and had earned the public's support by resolving countless incidents. Images of people gathering were shown, while the report stated that memorial altars for Lee Seo-jun were scheduled to be set up across the nation, and the public was in deep shock upon hearing of his death. He held the remote and said it made no sense. He questioned whether the protagonist could die at this point in the story and wondered if it was a lie. Lee Seo-jun, who had just been reported dead on the news, was a 25-year-old genius wizard and a young hero watched by the entire era, shown fighting amid bright attacks and heavy impacts. The more important fact was that his former classmate was the protagonist of Modern Wizard, the novel that formed the basis of this world. It explained that if the story had followed the original plot, it would have led to a happy ending, and he believed he could return to his original world. But the narration paused before showing a massive purple figure. He questioned why the protagonist died there and asked what would happen next. He thought he would be able to see his friends again once the novel ended. 7 years ago, a group of people shown laughing together around a table. A voice asked whether, if someone possessed an extra in a novel, they would keep the hidden benefits or not, and another asked which side they were on. One answered they would keep them, calling the other stupid. He responded strongly that he would not, and asked why. The man explained that stepping up for no reason and being killed by the protagonist would be a total game over. Another asked if he would step up himself. He answered that the protagonist went through every hardship imaginable, saying it would not be easy, and that he was not confident he could be as diligent as the protagonist. Another agreed it was a fair point. They told him he had a way of saying the right things in the most annoying way, and the group raised their glasses together. His phone vibrated, and he checked it, surprised. He said it claimed he had won some event. His friend asked what event it was. He looked at the message and read that it was a ticket to a very special place, asking if he would accept. He reacted excitedly, saying he was being sent on a trip. His friend said it was a huge win and asked when he had even entered anything like that. He wondered where they were sending him and pressed the option to accept, speculating that it might be overseas. The narration stated that this was how, 7 years ago, he fell into the novel he loved to read, Modern Wizard. In the novel, he appeared inside a glowing spell formation, while people around him questioned his behavior and told him not to step onto the formula. The narration repeated that he had fallen into the novel. Back in the present, he held his head and said he could not believe how twisted the story had become. Since the original flow should not change, he only acted outside the main story and wondered what went wrong. The TV began glitching, and he looked at it, asking why it was doing that now. He leaned toward the flickering screen, the static growing louder as he tried to steady it. The noise suddenly spiked, forcing him to pull back, and light burst across the room. He staggered as the glow sharpened into shifting shapes, filling the apartment with a vivid violet glare. He froze, staring at the swirling patterns as they grew brighter behind the monitor. He whispered a startled question while stepping back, only for the light to erupt again. Outside, the same violet light scattered across the street, enveloping pedestrians one by one. His eyes widened as the scene unfolded beyond the window. He asked why this was happening, only for a red system message to appear before him. It declared Lee Seo-jun dead, and the main scenarios failed. Another alert followed, announcing that the world would reset. He backed away from the message, confused. As cracks formed through the air around him, the light intensified, shattering everything in front of him. Voices echoed in the darkness, calling him a student and urging him to wake up. Someone shouted the word again, louder. He flinched as he opened his eyes to find a man calling him continuously. The man demanded to know why he wasn't getting off from the bus, reminding him they were already at the academy. He sat frozen as the bus driver stared at him, asking again if he planned to get off. The driver reminded him they had reached the academy long ago. He blinked, murmured an apology, and hurriedly stood up. As he stepped into the aisle, a thought struck him. He wondered if the driver had really called him a student. He recalled being in his room moments earlier, unsure why he had woken up on a bus. The collapse of the world still lingered in his mind, leaving him questioning whether it had been a dream. He stepped onto the ground, puzzled by the familiar scenery beneath his feet. Shielding his eyes from the bright sunlight, he looked around. The place felt unmistakably familiar. Before him stood the academy he once graduated from. A banner declared the year 2032. The number felt wrong to him. He stared down at his uniform and tie, disbelief rising. He checked his wrist and froze. His younger body stared back at him. Shocked, he whispered that he had gone back 7 years. A speaker welcomed everyone to the Korea Magic Academy. The announcement continued, stating that the entrance and opening ceremonies would begin soon. Students were asked to take their seats. He He stood among the students and noted that everything matched the way it had been 7 years ago. He concluded that at this rate, he had no choice but to accept it. He acknowledged that he had returned to the past. His younger self appeared in his thoughts before he questioned why Lee Seo-jun had died. He scratched his head while wondering about it. According to the original work, there had been absolutely no reason for Lee Seo-jun to die. Images of Lee Seo-jun struggling appeared in his mind. Cruis going on a rampage had matched the original flow, and Lee Seo-jun had succeeded in suppressing him after a desperate battle. He reasoned that this meant there had to be another cause behind Lee Seo-jun's death. He admitted he did not know and sank into his seat. Around him, students filled the hall. As he walked through the aisle, he wondered what would happen if Lee Seo-jun also died in this life. He pictured the purple-lit world and questioned whether he would go back to the past again or face the end of the world. He did not know the answer, but he recognized one clear point. Lee Seo-jun must not die. He narrowed his eyes and decided he needed to take action in this life, even if it was only to return to his original world. He clenched his fist and resolved that he had to prevent Lee Seo-jun's death. He decided he must see the novel's ending no matter what. To do that, he walked and sat beside Batty while greeting her with a casual hi. She glanced at him while he told himself it would be best to get close to the key characters. He identified her as Yua Ra, second year, rank 2, one of the people he needed to approach. She looked at him and asked if he knew her. She added that he was acting like they knew each other when they had barely met. He kept smiling as she questioned him. She asked why he was staring and if he had something to say. He answered no. She told him to look away, saying it was uncomfortable. He swallowed quietly and thought that this would not be easy. Inside the hall, students filled the seats. A voice asked the grade representatives to come up to the podium. Footsteps echoed as they walked toward the stage. The crowd murmured as 3 students stood on the platform. Someone commented that the aura was impressive and said he had learned directly from Chairman Kim Jin-cheol. Another added that his talent must be in a league of its own. A name tag identified him, second year rank 1, Lee Seo-jun. Our main protagonist Kim Seon-woo thought that Lee Seo-jun was famous even though he was still a student. The reason behind that is Modern Wizard was a protagonist-centered novel where the main character handled everything alone. Attention shifted as the freshman top student appeared, and students murmured that she was very pretty. Kim Seon-woo noted that even her smile was probably calculated, since her goal was directing. Another student stepped forward, and the crowd whispered that he had been rank 1 for all 3 years. Kim Seon-woo thought that he didn't look amazing. He didn't know much about that person. He recalled that the senior had very little presence in the original work. The announcement declared the start of the student oath. The representatives raised their hands, beginning with the words that they swear. He glanced toward Yua Ra, only for his hand to heat up. A surge of heat spread from her direction, and he commented that it was hot. He wondered if he should use this moment to score some points and called it pity. She looked back and asked what he meant by calling it a pity. Yua Ra confronts Kim Sun-woo and asks what he thinks he knows, demanding whether he has ever seen others use magic. He admits he has not. When she questions why he is speaking nonsense, he says he can tell just by looking. She reacts in confusion, and he states that he has good intuition, leaving her stunned. She asks if he is kidding, but he answers no. As she grows more agitated, he wonders if his approach is not working and decides to try something else. He tells her she has been worried about her career path lately. She silently wonders how he knows. Reading the name on his uniform, she says Kim Sun-woo. Yua Ra says she remembered his name and tells him not to speak to her from now on. He becomes uneasy, thinking the situation went wrong, then concludes he failed from the start. The Magic Academy's new semester begins with a placement test on the first day to determine rank, essentially an initiation ceremony to reveal oneself before the entire school. In class, a student worries about the placement test, while another says at least he has some skill and claims he is doomed. Sun-woo observes them and thinks they are cute kids. He states that his goal is to enter the top 10 of the second year. He remembers receiving multiple offers for promotion to B class in his previous life and considers these students nothing challenging. Kim Sun-woo thinks that performing at an average level against these students would hurt his pride and decides to show the skills of a professional. Yua Ra watches him and wonders what is going on with him. A student unleashes powerful ice magic, surrounding themselves with sharp, frozen energy and then charging forward while shouting. The attack strikes the training dummies and shatters them. Students watching comment on the skill displayed, saying he is really good and that they would believe he belonged in the upper ranks of the second year. Another remarks that his face and skills are both impressive. The instructor announces the second year's turn. As names are called, Yua Ra steps forward and conjures blazing fire magic. She launches herself forward and strikes the target with a powerful impact, creating a fiery explosion. Students react in shock, questioning if she is really their age and saying her abilities look professional. Sunwoo says that if Lee Seojun did not exist, Ra would be considered legendary. Lee Seojun prepares for his turn. He charges forward with a swirling blade and attacks the training dummies. The impact sends them flying as the student continues striking until all targets fall. He stands amid the scattered remains. The watching students react with surprise, and Ra glances toward him, unimpressed. Sunwoo thinks that Ra is good too, but notes that Lee Seojun earlier was practically an active pro mage. Ra has always had first place taken by someone like Lee Seojun, so she must be frustrated. Kim Sunwoo's name is then called. He acknowledges that it is finally his turn. From the spectator area, a teacher asks who Kim Sunwoo is, saying he handled first years last year. Another teacher explains that Kim Sunwoo is in his class, that he does not have much presence, and that he might not remember him. They mention that last year's records show talent in enhancement magic. Another teacher questions this since he appears empty-handed. A comment follows that he must have switched to manifestation, with the note that some students do that sometimes. Sunwoo begins forming magical energy. Someone observes that he is making what he likes his specialty, rather than what he is good at. Another person says he seems more ordinary than expected, and the reply agrees. A teacher suddenly reacts, recognizing something about him, as Sunwoo continues forming a swirling magical manifestation in his hand. Teacher wonders if Kim Sunwoo just used compressed materialization. The explanation follows that manifestation magic's first stage is materialization, the advanced technique of compressing materialized mana to control the next stage, emission, is called compressed materialization, and that it is normally used only by veteran mages. Ra and another student react in shock. The thought arises, questioning how a second-year student can use that technique. Sunwoo continues, channeling the magic and releasing it upward. The force surges into a column that smashes through the training dummies. The students watching are stunned. One lets out a small sound, then mutters poof. Laughter spreads through the crowd as some speculate he ran out of mana and claim he cannot perform a mission. They say materialization is pointless if he cannot follow through with it. Kim Sunwoo thinks he is in trouble. Then he begins receiving notifications that surprise him, and he stares at the results in confusion, questioning, why is it opening now? Later he sits in his room, looking at the window. He sighs and wonders why the window opened at that moment, noting that in his previous life it opened around the same time when he was in his room. Kim Sunwoo wonders why things are different now, and recalls the moment from earlier when he was at academy and performing his skills. He sees the notifications appearing in front of him, and reacts in confusion. Messages state that outsider benefits have been unlocked, new authority has been granted, and the system has been activated. More notifications appear. The main scenario has begun. An achievement called Life. Round 2 has been completed with a reward of 3,000 points. Another achievement, Talent of the Jester, has been completed, and he has received additional points. More messages say that 232 people now remember his face, and students nearby tell him to leave. Another reward of 1,000 points is given, followed by the notice that Lee Seojun has taken an interest in him, adding another 1,000 points. A message then states that 4 major characters have noticed him, giving him 3,000 more points. Sunwoo sits and realizes he earned 10,000 points in a short time. He thinks about using them and notes that the outsider benefits had to open. He brings up the outsider benefits interface. A description says it is a privilege only he, as someone possessed by this world, can use. The achievement system activates, showing various information windows. He reads that points can be earned by accumulating achievements, and that the fame system also gives points as he becomes more well known. The notifications list the points he has received. He then focuses on the point shop, which he considers the best part of the outsider benefits. It allows him to use points to buy traits, skills, or items. Kim Sunwoo thinks it is great to have points but feels that no matter what, the talent of the jester is harsh. He recalls that he had forgotten he still lacked mana at that time. He notes that this is the first time he has received so much attention in both his past and current life, and that he earned points from it, though he is still not convinced about the talent of the jester. He wonders how strong his current ability is, and tells the system to check the ability window. A window displays his information. Name, Kim Sunwoo. Points, 10,000. Health, 42. Mana, 21. Strength, 34. Speed, 20. Agility, 32. Dexterity, 28. He reacts in shock, wondering how much he invested in his stats before, and realizing they have reset. He questions when he will be able to raise them again, then stops and realizes he can redistribute stats in this life. He recalls that this world has 4 types of magic: enhancement, manifestation, support, and summoning. Enhancement strengthens weapons or the body. Manifestation materializes and projects spells. Summoning and support focus on summoning magic and support magic, respectively. He chooses manifestation as his specialty, thinking that if he is going to use magic, it should at least look cool. Since he is a manifestation type, he decides to prioritize the mana stat. A notification appears stating that 350 people now remember his face, giving him 1,000 points. Kim Sun-woo notices that many more people recognized him in a short time. He realizes that one gesture act increased his points this much. He considers it a good situation, then decides it is a fantastic situation. Another notification appears. 400 people now remember his face, giving him 2,000 points. He wonders how more people know him than the entire school, and then quickly checks his phone. He opens a page titled Forest of the Great Sage, and selects Korean Magic Academy. A post shows a video of his placement test with many comments reacting to it. He notes that he did not expect his test video to become so popular. He finds it embarrassing but appreciates the points and hopes more will come in. As he watches the notifications increase, he focuses fully and thinks that with this, he has achieved full attention. He believes that with this attention, he can earn a lot and buy what he wants. The next day, students whisper as he enters. They identify him as the person from yesterday's video. He walks through the hallway while listening to their reactions. He thinks they should keep talking and looks at the view count of the uploaded test video, seeing that it was worth pulling. Aggro all night. A post title reads Crazy S to rank magician scandal. Comments discuss the video, questioning whether students at the academy are really that bad. One commenter says they have never used magic before, but can tell he cannot do it. Kim Sun-woo watches and thinks he earned another 5,000 points because of it. He walks down the hallway and stops in front of a classroom door. When he enters, students notice him and call his name. A blonde student points at him and calls out to him, saying yesterday was hilarious. The student puts an arm around him, saying everyone laughed after he showed off. Another asks how his mana ran out, and questions whether he got into the academy through money. Kim Sun-woo identifies the blonde student as Park In-hwan. He remembers that Park In-hwan played the crazy one early in the story, and thinks nothing good comes from getting involved, so he should stay put. Park In-hwan calls him and says that from today his name is Troublemaker, telling him to come when called. He warns that otherwise school life will be hard for him. Lee tells Park In-hwan to stop, and asks Park In-hwan if he was not told not to bully others. Park In-hwan sighs and says that the genius everyone watches, Lee Seo-jin, seems to want to play hero, while ordinary students just... Park In-hwan says that ordinary students should just follow along quietly. Lee Seo-jun calls his name. Park In-hwan looks back as Lee Seo-jun stares at him. Park In-hwan then tells his group to go and walks away with them. The door closes loudly as Kim Sun-woo watches. Lee Seo-jun approaches and asks if he is okay. Kim Sun-woo answers that he is fine. Lee Seo-jun confirms his name and mentions the video from yesterday. Kim Sun-woo responds that he is fine. Kim Sun-woo suddenly reacts and thinks he cannot take the pressure. He notes that the video is already spreading a lot. Lee Seo-jun tells him not to worry too much and says the malicious spreader is at fault. Kim Sun-woo agrees. As Lee Seo-jun starts to leave, Kim Sun-woo calls out to him and asks him to team up with him. Lee Seo-jun responds with confusion. Kim Sun-woo explains it is for the first class of the semester and that they will be on the same team. Lee Seo-jun questions why it has to be him. Kim Sun-woo approaches and tells him it will be good for him as well. Lee Seo-jun reacts with confusion, asking why he would do that. Sun-woo leans closer and says it will be good for him too. Seo-jun thinks for a moment, then apologizes, saying he never really considered Sun-woo a teammate. Sun-woo insists and tells Seo-jun there are 2 reasons he must team up with him. Seo-jun asks to hear them. Sun-woo explains the first reason. He is ranked dead last in the entire second year. Seo-jun questions whether that even counts as a reason. Sun-woo reminds him that joint tests have handicap scores. If the top ranker teams with the last place, their combined score becomes higher. Seo-jun acknowledges that it makes sense, but thinks the risk is still too high. Sun-woo moves to the second reason. He says Yuara has already picked 2 low-ranking students for her team. Seo-jun reacts with surprise. Sun-woo continues, explaining that Yuara specializes in AoE magic, so she will be fine even with 2 deadweights slowing her down. Lee Seo-jun considers the explanation and acknowledges that it is true. Kim Sun-woo raises 3 fingers and says the third reason. Lee Seo-jun reminds him that he previously said there were only 2 reasons. Kim Sun-woo states that the third reason is himself, adding that he is actually skilled for someone in last place. Lee Seo-jun laughs and tells him he is hilarious. He agrees to team up but adds one condition. Kim Sun-woo reacts with confusion. Lee Seo-jun states that he will choose the rest of the team members and asks if Kim Sun-woo minds. A message appears stating that the character Lee Seo-jun is deeply intrigued, followed by another message noting that Kim Sun-woo has acquired 2,000 points as a reward. Kim Sun-woo accepts the condition and says it sounds good. Later in class, the instructor explains that the origin of magic traces back to the 14th century, and that the system once consisted of only 2 types. The instructor adds that the old 2-system structure eventually collapsed. She asks the class for the reason. Kim Sun-woo raises his hand. The instructor calls on him. Kim Sun-woo answers that it was Hui Jium, the first reinforcement type, mage, who appeared in the 18th century. The instructor confirms that the answer is correct and praises his work. The instructor continues explaining that the appearance of Hui Jium shocked medieval mages who supported manifestation-type magic. Manifestation mages of that time could not match Hui Jium at all. From that point onward, research into reinforcement-type magic expanded rapidly. Kim Sun-woo listens silently. Kim Sun-woo thought that classical magic theory and complex formulas are challenging even for Lee Seo-jun. Kim Sun-woo reviews his notes, thinking that the material is difficult for others but not for him. The outsider's perk provides all the basic information and even interprets it, making him more confident than anyone else during written exams. He finishes writing energetically. Other students whisper among themselves, wondering who he thinks he is, and mocking the mention of Hermione. Some question the point of listening to him when he ranks last. Sun-woo internally tells them to speak up if they are jealous. The class ends, and the instructor wishes everyone a pleasant lunch break. Students begin leaving the room. As Sun-woo walks out, someone calls his name. He turns toward the voice. Lee Seo-jun approaches him and suggests they grab lunch together to celebrate becoming teammates. They head to the cafeteria, pick up their trays of food and walk through the dining area. Seo-jun points out an empty seat. A student waves both hands excitedly and calls out to Seo-jin, and Sun-woo recognizes him as Shin Young-jin. Seo-jin joins Young-jin at the table. Young-jin explains that teaming up with top rankers results in low scores and comments that it seems the top students have split up this time instead. Shin Young-jin recognizes Kim Sun-woo and says he saw the video. Sun-woo confirms. Young-jin asks when Sun-woo and Lee Seo-jun became close. Seo-jun answers that it was just earlier and says they decided to go dungeon exploring together the day after tomorrow. Young-jin reacts with surprise. Seo-jun tells him that even without the last place handicap, Young-jin's team could take first place. Young-jin questions why they bothered. Seo-jun says Ra is out for blood. Young-jin asks why her. Seo-jun explains that she put 2 bottom rankers on her team. Young-jin comments that she is intense. Seo-jun suggests they eat. Sun-woo agrees, saying he was starving. They continue their meal while someone from another table watches them. The observer thinks that Sun-woo is the person posted on the Great Sage's Forest. A girl asks her friend Seo-yun-ah what she is looking at. Seo-yun-ah says it is nothing, then continues watching. She wonders how Sun-woo became close to Seo-jun. Later, students practice magic in another area. Kim Sun-woo prepares to test his magic. He decides to try the amount of controllable mana. He activates manifestation and forms a sphere of mana. He continues into emission and then proceeds into manipulation. Kim Sun-woo's mana projectile travels across the hall and curves through the air. It stabilizes and spins as it moves forward. Students react in surprise. One student says it is not completely terrible. Another comments that he is better than expected. Sun-woo thinks that he can hear everything they are saying. Later, he thinks back to before regressing, when he used points to buy stats. He remembers raising his stats in the early stages, but the price of stats increased with every purchase, making them unaffordable. He notes that this follows the same logic as leveling up becoming harder in a game. He considers the long-term approach and thinks it is better to raise stats using traits or items that boost mana rather than buying them with points. He searches for mana-related options and scrolls through a list of traits and items. He wonders where the trait from the middle of the novel is. A trait appears, Nature's Blessing. It states that cultivating mana grants additional mana depending on the surrounding environment, up to a set amount. Sun-woo identifies it as the one he was looking for. He then looks at the Returner's Watch, which increases health and mana regeneration speed. He notes that he bought it by selling Culinary Master, a trait he inherited in this life. He reflects that traits can be sold for points, and that selling them can be useful, though it feels wasteful since he used them well. He stands up, preparing to move. Kim Sun-woo thinks that thanks to buying Nature's Protection and the Returner's Watch, his starting point is much faster than before he regressed. His phone begins vibrating. He wonders who would contact him and checks the screen. He looks at the message and reacts, recognizing it. A group chat is shown. Shin Ji-hyuk, Yoon Ha-young, and Jung Jin-tae are listed. Sun-woo reads their names. He notes that except for Yoon Ha-young, the others appear to be low-ranked. He recalls that Yoon Ha-young becomes a key character later on, but she has not realized her own skills yet, so her role should still be small at this point. A message appears in the chat asking everyone to share their main specialty, explaining that some may not know each other's abilities. Shin Ji-hyuk writes that he uses support magic with manifestation magic as a subspecialty. Yoon Ha-young writes that she uses manifestation magic with ice as her element and support magic as her subspecialty. subspecialty. Jung Jin-tae writes that he uses enhancement magic, and that his subspecialty is manifestation magic, but he is not good at it. Sunwoo adds that he uses manifestation magic with no element. Another message from the group states that everyone in the academy already knows he uses manifestation magic. Sunwoo reacts to the message and replies that he is just letting them know. He decides that they will set Lee Seo-jun as the main, and the rest of them will provide support. He thinks that if they want first place, they need to perform better than Yuara's team. He wonders who Yuara chose for her team. Students practice magic outdoors, launching their mana outward. An instructor tells a student that he is focusing too much on control and neglecting the release, advising him to put more power into his mana and let it fly faster. He responds in acknowledgement. Nearby, Yoon Ha-young gathers fire-type mana in her hand, releasing a large explosion of flames across the training area. Other students react to the display. The instructor observes her and notes internally that her skill is incredible, describing it as natural talent and aptitude. She considers that perhaps Yoon's age explains some roughness in her technique, and thinks she still needs refinement. She evaluates that Yoon's mana utilization is somewhat lacking. Her attention is then caught by another mana burst. She turns and sees a powerful blast of blue mana streaking forward. She watches and thinks it is not bad. Sunwoo reacts with satisfaction. She remembers that earlier Sunwoo had been so focused on materialization that he failed at the release. Now, using minimal mana, he demonstrates perfect release and control. She reflects that identifying one's own flaws at his age is not easy. Watching him continue, she smiles proudly. The specialty class ended, and the teacher told the students they had done well. The students thanked her. As they walked off, some said the lesson relieved stress, and others commented that it felt like a real class. One student decided to go rest. The teacher called for student Kim Sunwoo. He turned and answered. She praised his work in class and asked if he had been keeping up with his training. He replied that he practiced in his spare time. She asked about his mana cultivation, saying he was doing that regularly as well. Sunwoo thought to himself that she had noticed his low mana capacity compared to his current skill. He told her he was cultivating mana. She said he was good at everything else, but lacked mana capacity, and explained that accumulating mana required consistent effort. Sunwoo promised to work hard. She handed him an item, explaining it helped with mana breathing and maintaining his condition. Sunwoo hesitated and asked if it was really okay for him to accept it. She told him not to feel burdened. She added that it was just an F-rank item for practice that did not cost much. Sunwoo accepted it and said he would use it well. She reminded him that class was over and he should get going. Sunwoo walked away humming about the unexpected gift. Ahead, he noticed someone and wondered if it was who he thought. Yoon Ha-young leaned against a wall. She called out to him, addressing him as Kim Sunwoo. He asked if it was okay for her to speak to him after telling him not to talk to her the day before. She stayed silent. Yoon Ha-young told Sunwoo she heard he was in the same group as Seo-jun this time. Sunwoo asked how she knew. She said it looked like he was trying to leech off the top-ranked Seo-jun. She pointed at him and said that even so, first place would be hers this time, telling him to get real. She turned and left. Sunwoo wondered why she was so sensitive. On Thursday morning, students gathered near the dungeon gates. Sunwoo ran up, relieved he arrived in time. Lee Seo-jun said it was the first time their group was all together. He encouraged everyone to do their best for the first semester, and the others agreed. One student commented that their team was unique, since they had both the first place and last place students together. Sunwoo wondered if it was sarcasm. The boy asked if Sunwoo could handle things, reminding him he couldn't cast a single spell during the last test. Sunwoo realized he was being sarcastic. Another boy said that since Seo-jun brought Sunwoo, Seo-jun would figure out how to take care of him. Sunwoo realized he planned to rely on Seo-jun. Sunwoo noted that Yoon Ha-young's spotlight episode was still far away. The girl greeted Seo-jun warmly. Sunwoo wondered if his presence had changed the team composition, and thought that Yoon Ha-young was one thing. Sunwoo wondered if the test would be okay with the members he had. The instructor called for attention, and explained the dungeon exploration. He said the class would be conducted in 2 sessions, morning and afternoon. Since it was the first day, they would only explore the first basement floor. He continued by explaining how the class would be graded. He said the first factor was dungeon clear speed, where faster groups earned more bonus points. The second factor was the rank adjustment score, where the lower the teammate's rank compared to one's own, the more individual points were given. The final factor was contribution. He explained that artificial dungeons had a special contribution system, and additional points were awarded based on how much each person contributed to the team. He instructed everyone to prioritize safety. The students agreed. He told them to enter the dungeon by team, wishing them a safe trip. Inside the monitoring room, multiple screens showed the dungeon interior. A teacher greeted Mr. Jang, who had arrived after sending the students in. They said they had been waiting for him because they needed to bet on which group would earn the highest score. Another teacher pointed out that everyone would choose Yoon Ha-young's team, and she admitted she had picked Group 7 as well. One teacher said the bet was off, but another activated the system and declared the bet on, and explains that she is betting on Group 3 where Seo-jun is. Another teacher notes that although Seo-jun and Yuara, or say Yoon Ha-young's, both form form teams with low-ranked students, the situations differ. He states that Seojun's teammates are unstable, and that Seojun has limits as an enhancement type. The teacher acknowledges that enhancement magic is specialized for one-on-one combat, making it difficult to handle multiple enemies without team support. She observes Ra, who specializes in area of effect magic and has already reached the middle of the first floor. She says she still believes in the possibility of the lowest ranked team rising, and suggests watching to see who wins the bet. Inside the dungeon, Seojun defeats a wolf-type monster. Sunwoo and the others move forward as a group. One teammate comments that Seojun fights well, another notes that they are already halfway through. They discuss what the first floor boss might be, assuming it will be a weak creature. The girl says that a boss may still be strong and asks Sunwoo what he thinks will appear. Sunwoo responds that a giant wolf will appear. A teammate asks how he knows that. Kim Sunwoo claims he has his own methods, leaving the student remembering that he has experienced Sunwoo's tricks before. The student privately judges Sunwoo as a habitual liar. While Sunwoo dismissively tells him to believe it or not, student laughs loudly, provoking him and insists he does not believe Sunwoo. Seojin stops the growing argument and urges the group to move faster. The student named Young Woo agrees, and the group continues walking. After a short while, Seojin suddenly stops, and the others question him. They tease him about being scared, but Seojin calmly states that something is on the ground. The group turns their attention downward, noticing a glowing formation. Seojin identifies it as a magic circle, though he cannot determine its type. Others wonder why it is there and whether it is dangerous, while one insists the academy would not give them anything harmful. Kim Sunwoo kneels to inspect it despite Seojin warning him to be careful. Sunwoo insists it is fine and examines the circle closely. After a moment of thought, he concludes it is only a basic barrier. Min-jae questions how he knows that. Sunwoo recalls seeing the same barrier unfold in his previous life. He reaches out toward the circle, touching it as energy reacts to his hand. Then he shows the others the magic circle and tells them to look. Youngwoo claims he already knew. Another complains that they cannot pass like this and wonders if they must go back. A girl asks if there is another way. Seojin tells everyone to step back so he can try cutting the barrier with his sword. He gathers power and strikes. Light bursts from the impact. The group watches and asks if it worked. A crack appears, but the barrier stays intact. Jungwoo comments it was close, and another thought it would succeed. Seojin says he feels it might work if he does it properly. Seojin prepares again, wondering if it is time for him to step up. Jungwoo steps forward, saying he may look like this but is a support type. He tells them to wait a bit and reaches toward the circle. He touches it and examines it with a troubled expression. He says the structure is complicated and might take a long time, about 10 minutes, but he will try his fastest. Kim Sunwoo places both hands on the magic circle and channels power into it. Blue energy gathers around him. System messages activate, stating that his unique trait, Outsider's Benefit, is interpreting the magic formula. Symbols appear in front of him, and he studies the structure. The information reveals that it is the Korea Magic Academy's artificial dungeon first floor barrier with low difficulty, and that the first floor boss is a giant wolf. Sunwoo continues adjusting the formula, and the symbols shift. He comments internally that the Korea Magic Academy must have built it sloppily. The symbols realign, forming clear instructions. The system repeats the barrier description and the boss information. Sunwoo completes the adjustment and presses into the circle. The barrier dissolves and opens. The others react with shock. Sunwoo celebrates, saying they succeeded. Seojin and the others express disbelief at how fast it happened. A message appears stating that Lee Seojun feels surprised toward Sunwoo, and that his interest in Sunwoo increases. Another message states his interest level rising to level 1 and awards Sunwoo 5,000 points. Sunwoo questions what the interest level means. A sound draws their attention, and the group looks up to see a large wolf standing at the top of the stairs. It roars as it prepares to attack. The wolf is identified as the giant wolf, the first floor boss. The group tenses as the monster leaps toward them. One student remarks that it is exactly as Kim Sunwoo said. The wolf leaps down aggressively toward Lee Seojun. Seojun reacts immediately and strikes the wolf with the bright slash of energy, knocking it away. The wolf collapses, defeated. Seojun stands after delivering the blow. The group gathers around the defeated boss. One student comments that it is as expected of Lee Seojun, treating the boss as if it were a normal monster. The dungeon door opens. The students celebrate, saying the exploration is over, and they exit the dungeon. Outside, the instructor praises Group 3 and announces they earned second place for Week 1. A student asks about first place. The instructor explains that first place is Group 7, which cleared the dungeon 30 minutes earlier. Lee Seojun remarks that it is Ura's team. Two students check the rankings on their devices. One says Ura finished in 4 hours and 11 minutes, and comments that it seems unreasonable. They note that Group 3 is only 2 minutes ahead of third place. and wonder if they might get overtaken. Kim Sun-woo notices their concern. Seo-jun smiles and says that thanks to Sun-woo, they achieved second place. Sun-woo responds that it was not really because of him, leading the others to smile around him. They praise him, saying that without him clearing the barrier, their ranking would have fallen. Sun-woo responds that he performed poorly and should have secured first place. One classmate insists they finished quickly because of Lee Seo-jun. Another adds that it is only the first floor of week 1, and that the test is not over. The group agrees that they only need to overturn the results later. A teacher approaches and calls for student Kim Sun-woo. Sun-woo answers. He recognizes the teacher as the one in charge of support magic. The teacher tells Sun-woo she has come to make him a proposal. Sun-woo asks what she means, and she abruptly tells him to transfer to the support department immediately. Sun-woo is confused, and the teacher grabs his hand excitedly. Sun-woo repeats his confusion, then tells her he does not want to transfer. The teacher panics and asks him to listen to the conditions first. She offers him a special talent scholarship worth 50 million won. She asks again if he is interested. Sun-woo replies that he is not interested at all. Students nearby stare at him. One student calls out to him, asking why he refused the offer, and says he is weak in manifestation magic anyway. They say they would have transferred immediately. Other students agree. The girl named Yu Ara steps forward and asks Sun-woo if he truly will not transfer. Kim Sun-woo listens as she explains that special talents receive many benefits beyond the scholarship. Sun-woo thanks her but says he will continue with manifestation magic. Ara looks surprised. The scene shifts to the academy building, where a girl walks through the hallway. She notices someone and pauses. She calls him Senior Kim Shinwook. He corrects her, saying his name is Kim Sun-woo. She laughs and apologizes. She asks why he is cleaning. He says the place was dirty, so he cleaned it. She comments that he is nice and wishes him a good day before leaving. As she walks away, she thinks that what he is doing is pointless. Sun-woo receives an achievement notification called The Small Bride, along with a reward of 1,000 points. He wonders how he is supposed to explain earning that achievement. He finishes cleaning and leaves the hallway, as Lee Seo-jun watches Sun-woo from behind a wall with a slight smile, like he's interested in Sun-woo or something. At the lecture hall, it is filled with students as the instructor explains that many types of monsters exist. An image of a beast-type monster is projected beside him. He continues describing categories such as humanoid, beast, and flying types, then states that the most dangerous among them are the demonized. He asks why demonized beings are dangerous. Sun-woo answers that unless they drop their disguise or go berserk, they are indistinguishable from humans. The instructor agrees, adding that they drink human blood and control monsters, calling them absolute evil rooted in society. He explains that ordinary people cannot identify a demonized being without equipment, though under certain conditions their eyes turn black. Sun-woo listens. Startled at the mention of demonized beings, he remembers that in his previous life at this time in the upcoming weekend's episode, the demonized appear for the first time, including one defeated by a student none other than Lee Seo-jun, which becomes news. Sun-woo thinks the protagonist will handle the situation but considers checking for danger nearby. He then worries about needing money if he plans to follow Lee Seo-jun's outside activities. Sun-woo meditates in training. He concentrates with swirling green energy surrounding him, focusing as energy gathers around his chest. He continues until mana screens appear around him while he remains seated in meditation. Mana increases slightly, and due to the effect of nature's blessing, Kim Sun-woo gains an additional amount. A notification states that nature's blessing proficiency has increased by 12%. Sun-woo reflects that his training during free time is paying off. He stretches and notes that he has accumulated a considerable amount of mana. More notifications appear. One states that the trait Nature's Blessing has risen to rank 2. Another states that the active effect of Nature's Blessing has been unlocked, allowing the use of Nature's Heart. Light spreads around him as the system displays the message. Sun-woo decides that purchasing Nature's Blessing was the correct choice. He opens the trait window. A cooldown description appears. Nature's Heart increases mana recovery speed by 1000% for 1 minute and has a cooldown of 24 hours. He notes that although the cooldown is long, mana regeneration becomes extremely fast during its duration. He considers that he can use the effect whenever necessary and insists that manifestation magic suits him. He recalls when the teacher mentions Kim Sun-woo to transfer to support magic immediately. Sun-woo continues walking and thinks that dispelling barriers is more convenient for others, as he cannot create them himself. He hesitates, because the scholarship offer is tempting. Sun-woo checks his account balance, which shows 30,801. He acknowledges that being a student means having very little money. Sitting down, he wonders if there is a quick way to earn money through short trades. He considers dungeon runs, monster hunting, and selling dropped items, but rejects the idea as too dangerous. He He thinks about climbing towers as another option, but he notes that he is still a student and can only handle low-tier ones. A reminder appears that he cannot obtain a license because he is a minor. Sunwoo stands in contemplation, tapping his head as he tries to think of another method. Sunwoo suddenly raised a finger as an idea struck him. At that night, a teacher entered the staff room and told the others he had seen an admirable student. Another teacher identified the student as second-year Kim Sunwoo, explaining that Sunwoo had arrived early in the morning and clean the staff discussed how Sunwoo always focused well, participated actively, and maintained a good attitude in class. One teacher remarked that this was typical of manifestation students. Another teacher mentioned that someone had tried to scout Sunwoo, but she believed he would not fall for it easily. She then commented that it was nice to see such a diligent and pleasant student these days. Sunwoo, elsewhere, realized that the praise did not necessarily have to be directed toward a student. He acknowledged his own cleverness. A notification informed him that the achievement titled Student Loved by Teachers had been completed, granting him 2,000 points. Sunwoo welcomed the sudden extra points and opened the point shop. The interface activated the search function, and he purchased something costing 10,000 points. Afterward, he resolved to make full use of it and earn money, while nearby students looked at him in disbelief. On Saturday morning, Kim Sunwoo heads to a government building. A security officer stops him, and Sunwoo says he wants to apply for a mage license. The officer asks for identification. Sunwoo produces his wallet and hands over his absolutely fake license, saying he has it ready. His ID shows he is Kim Jinwoo, age 25, grade C. The officer examines the license, checks it with a device, and waits as the verification process runs. The machine displays the data and confirms grade E wizard, Kim Jinwoo, age 25. The man smiles and says it is nice to meet him. Sunwoo notes that the test was tougher than expected. Sunwoo thanks and recalls a memory of himself observing carefully while system shows him the information of new and helpful for creating his own ID. He returns to the system screen, where the point shop shows an option to set ID details and issue a wizard license at the same time for 10,000 points. With a purchase limit of 2, Sunwoo presses claim. The system projects a glowing license. Explanations appear stating that wizard licenses in this world are special because they contain a unique magical formula that prevents forgery. Sunwoo acknowledges this and thinks that using magic glasses give him Clark Kent ability so that no one can recognize him, as his disguise will be perfect. Sunwoo steps across the floor and thought that he must clear the tower and then use the shortcut to the 9th floor. He checks the time and confirms that Lee Seojin will fight the boss at 8 p.m. He walks through the entrance, and a greeting message welcomes Kim Jinwoo to the Tower of Proof. A message states he can enter up to floor 10. As he stands on the platform, it asks which floor he wants to move to. He selects the 10th floor. Another message explains the floor has already been cleared, and that rewards will be reduced if he clears it again. Sunwoo replies that it does not matter, and asks to proceed, thinking his objective is different. Light engulfs him, whereas Sunwoo thought that portals are used to move between tower floors. There are many kinds of towers in the world, and the strength of the monsters and the difficulty of traps vary between towers. The Tower of Proof, which appears in the original side story, is unusual enough that many guilds avoid challenging it. Sunwoo enters the 10th floor. A message confirms entry. He walks forward when he suddenly senses danger. Several red eyes glare at him from the darkness. A black wolf with glowing eyes approaches. The wolf roars and rushes directly toward him, but his casted spell cut it down instantly. It is clear that the monsters appearing here were relatively weak. A system message appeared and marked his first hunt as complete, granting him 1,000 points as a reward. In this, traps and high-level magical formulas were scattered everywhere. He stepped forward, a magic circle glowing behind him. He considered that the tower was practically made for him. He checked the time on his wrist, thinking it should be enough to clear the place. Nearby, crowds gathered along the Han River. One boy noted how many people there were, and Lee Seo-jun answered that it wasn't even festival time yet. The first boy suggested taking a photo, and Lee Seo-jun asked what kind. The boy laughed and said photos were memories. He pulled him in for a picture, whereas in the tower, a beast burst upward as Sunwoo unleashed another spell, the attack spiraling through the creature. Sunwoo walked forward through the fading light of the impact, and stopped as a glowing shard rolled at his feet. He picked up the magic gem, calling it his lucky day and deciding at least his transport money was covered. He reached a wall deeper inside the structure, tapping along the surface and saying it should be around here. He found a faint glow and reached toward it. Light spread across his hand as hidden formulas activated around him. The system messages faded, and Sunwoo stepped through the glowing doorway as light washed over him. The reward notifications echoed behind him, while he entered the hidden floor of the Tower of Proof, the imaginal world. The tower reacted immediately. The mana of mystery stirred like a rising tide. Warm radiance burst across his vision. A sprawling dreamlike garden stretched ahead, filled with towering statues, hanging vines, and drifting petals. Sunwoo paused at the entrance as another achievement notification appeared, awarding him more points. He looked around, unsure, wondering if this was all there was. But a strange orb of knowledge drifted overhead, whispering that those who climb the Tower of Proof must be judged. A statue's eyes lit with golden light, its voice resonating through the air as it asked him to prove himself. The statue raised a hand, and its gaze sharpened. Sun Wu braced instinctively. The moment he moved, light sliced downward, and he dodged with a sharp breath. Mana surged behind him, gathering at his palm as he swung upward to counter the looming force. The sky bloomed with shimmering bursts as tiny winged creatures stirred, their laughter scattered like chimes carried by wind. Sun Wu slowed at the sight of dozens of flower fairies drifting from the garden's blossoms. They circled him playfully at first, but the glint in their eyes shifted. The fairies' grins twisted into something hungry. He quickly assessed them. They were small monsters, more annoying than dangerous. But as soon as they recognized a human, they swarmed. He stepped back as the creatures dove toward him. A burst of wind redirected one of them mid-air, sending it crashing against the garden path. The rest shrieked, their wings vibrating furiously. Sun Wu tightened his stance as he spread mana through his hand, preparing another spell. He knew from experience that these monsters tended to explode into dust the moment they were defeated. Sun Wu swung his spell outward and urged himself to hit at least one of the fairies. The blast struck through the swarm, scattering them. One fairy faltered, and he steadied himself on a glowing magic circle beneath him. He realized that even if he defeated all the fairies, he still couldn't clear the floor. The statue's voice asked again if he could prove it. He answered internally that unleashing everything couldn't be proven with that. A system message activated his innate trait, Outsider's Benefit, and began interpreting the magical formula. Symbols rearranged themselves into readable text. The tower urged him once more to prove it. Blue energy spread around him as he faced the floating formula. He answered that he would do it. The formula expanded, reacting to him. He noted that his uniqueness was reacting to it, and it was the ability he gained as an outsider in this world. The ground beneath him shifted as another system message appeared. Achievement recognized by the Tower of Proof unlocked, awarding him 10,000 points. Light engulfed him as he arrived in a chamber with towering statues. A message declared that the Tower of Proof bestowed a blessing upon him. Another message granted him the adaptive trait, Tower's Proof. Rewards materialized before him. An enchanting book, the soul of a red dragon, a sacred herb seed, and 5 sacred herbs. More items filled the display. Equipment, rare materials, and other rewards. System messages displayed increases in magic by 5, mana recovery speed by 20%, and magic power by 10%. Sun Wu clenched his fist and said it was done. A message congratulated him. Fireworks erupted as the tower announced that he had successfully cleared the hidden floor of the imaginal world. Scene shifts, and we see Lee Seo-jun and his classmate that commented that things were finally starting. Lee Seo-jun told him to check something. When he looked, he saw the photo they had taken earlier, and asked why it looked like that. Lee Seo-jun told him to look closely. He zoomed in, and his expression shifted with shock. The image revealed a man wearing a hat behind them. He wondered if those eyes could be a mind's eye. Sun Wu noticed the same man wandering unsteadily near a building. He watched the clock tower and muttered what the time was. He grew tense as he thought it was getting closer to 8. He questioned why Lee Seo-jun had not appeared yet. He waited while the man continued stumbling across the rooftop park. Sun Wu checked the time again, realizing it was almost 9, and wondered if he had to intervene himself. He reminded himself this was part of the main story, not a side quest. If he handled it wrong, he could break the plot. As the man swayed forward, a student ran toward him and asked if he was all right. Red markings spread across the man's body as his eyes glowed. He slowly turned toward the student. Sun Wu silently murmured no, as he saw blood splatter across the ground. The injured student collapsed, choking and coughing as the man tightened his grip around him. The man's eyes glowed red as he swung violently, tearing into the student and throwing him aside. He struck again, crushing him with repeated blows until the body fell limp. Dark energy surged through him as his muscles swelled and his form twisted. A girl nearby screamed as the transformed man turned toward her. His body expanded again, crackling with dark power. People watching from a distance identified him as a demon and said he had gone berserk. Some urged others to call for help and reported immediately. Sun Wu grabbed his staff, thinking there was no time to hesitate. He ran forward. He then thought to forget the stick and focused on saving the people first. The boys who reported the photo spoke to an officer who confirmed their report. The officer examined the image and stated the eyes belonged to a person without a doubt. He identified himself as Wizard Association Counterterrorism Special Force Agent Jung Hyun Soo. The agent reviewed the photo and confirmed it was taken nearby. The 2 boys answered that it was. He assessed the situation, calling it a disaster with crowds gathered because of the festival, adding that the creatures became stronger the more blood they consumed. Lee Seo-jun suddenly reacted, sensing something unusual. He identified the surge of mana and stated he was certain. The agent immediately sprinted toward the source. Elsewhere, a group questioned whether the area was even safe. One of them noticed someone approaching and asked who it was. The transformed man man advanced toward the girl as she begged anyone to help her. The creature struck down, forcing the girl to fall back. She screamed while Sunwoo intercepted the attack just in time. He noted how close it was. The creature then redirected its focus and began running after her again. Sunwoo judged the demon to be at least rank B and considered direct confrontation equal to death. He prepared mana, deciding to use all of it at once. He released the attack, directing it toward the creature. He reminded himself to aim for the weak point. The blast hit the creature in the head. Sunwoo stood frozen as the mutated man rose from the shadows, his eyes reflecting the approaching threat. The creature's staggering steps sent dust curling through the night air. The monster's half-destroyed face twisted as it regenerated, flesh crawling back over bone. Sunwoo realized his earlier attack hadn't fully destroyed its brain. The beast growled, surging with darker energy. Sunwoo leapt forward, clutching his staff as he closed the distance. Landing hard, he steadied himself and admitted he had planned to save his next move for later, but now had no choice. Lines of blue light flashed across his body as a notification activated. The skill heart of nature awakened, filling him with surging mana, his recovery speed instantly increasing. Mana swarmed around his hands, coiling into several glowing orbs. He acknowledged he might not finish the creature within a minute, but he could at least cripple it. The monster lunged. Sunwoo sent the orbs spinning into formation, propelling himself forward with enhanced speed. He hurled the barrage toward the charging creature, driving it back with repeated blows of concentrated mana. Sunwoo extended his hand again, releasing another surge. Multiple blasts struck the monster's face, hammering its head and staggering it further. Then he urged the creature to try blocking it. The creature raised its arms to defend as he declared he was aiming only for its head. The monster roared as the strikes hit. Sunwoo noted that his attacks were working, and thought that if he kept this up he could finish it. A sudden flicker of light leaked from his chest, and he reacted with surprise as the mana within him trembled. He realized that a minute had already passed. He clicked his tongue and judged that at this rate, he would not be able to hold the creature back. The monster's body swelled again with dark power. Before it could advance, a sharp slash cut through the air. A figure struck downward, severing the creature's head in a single motion. Sunwoo stared, shocked. As the body collapsed, the agent stepped forward and stated that the situation had been contained. He introduced himself as Jung Hyun Soo from the Special Force. He said they had resolved the incident easily thanks to Sunwoo. He asked for Sunwoo's wizard license to verify his identity for the reward. Sunwoo handed it over. The agent examined it and commented that he had assumed Sunwoo was at least rank B. Two boys arrive while Sunwoo, startled, turns toward them. He recognizes Lee Seo-jin and Shin Young-jin, wondering why they arrived so late. Frustrated, he scolds them internally for showing up only now. He notes that they should have been there earlier. Seo-jin then observes a man standing with a police officer and feels that he has seen him somewhere before. Kim Sun-woo, noticing their attention, glances back with unease. Seo-jin steps forward and asks if he knows someone named Kim Sun-woo. Seo-jin adds that Sun-woo attends the Magic Academy. Jin then remarks that he now sees a resemblance and asks if they are related. Kim Sun-woo denies it, saying it is the first time he has heard that name. The officer beside him dismisses the idea of any resemblance and urges the boys to move along. Sun-woo then turns to Kim Sun-woo and thanks him for what he did earlier. The officer simply states that he only did what was necessary. He says he will be taking his leave, adding that reporters and agents will soon arrive to handle the aftermath. Sun-woo thanks him, saying his life was saved. Later, as Kim Sun-woo walks away, a notification appears before him. It states that he participated in the subjugation of the B-rank villain Jang Han. Kim Sun-woo pauses, surprised, and questions how he ended up being counted in the subjugation. He thought, isn't it deviating too much from the original story? System window shows that he has been rewarded with points, and that his causality has increased. He reads the explanation of causality, learning that it is gained by resolving key events, and that authorities can be activated by consuming it. He considers the change, realizing it occurred because of his intervention. As he reflects, he recalls that in the original timeline, Lee Seo-jun died without his involvement. He wonders if the rise in causality means he can save him this time. Another window opens, listing authorities that unlock with higher causality. He studies the information carefully, recognizing that reaching a high enough value would allow him to accomplish anything he desires. The thought leads him to imagine returning to the real world. A memory surfaces of himself surrounded by friends in the past, reacting with excitement. When the memory fades, he steadies himself. The conclusion becomes clear to him. There is no reason to hesitate. He resolves to intervene actively, deciding that protecting Lee Seo-jun and gaining more causality must become intentional actions rather than coincidences. A notification arrives with his monetary reward for the subjugation. He acknowledges it with brief surprise, and decides that bringing the evidence back to the dorms would have been troublesome, so the quick reward is convenient. Thinking about the day he has had, he considers using the money to rest properly. He travels to the Wizard-exclusive hotel owned by the Hansung Group. He recalls the group's worldwide influence and their importance in the original story. Entering the hotel, Kim Sun-woo pauses for a moment, taking in the environment as he prepares to proceed further. Han Seojin, the vice chairman of Hansung Group, arrives at the event, drawing attention. Staff greet him respectfully as he passes through. He is reminded that his sister, Han Seon, has expressed her intention to attend the dinner, and he acknowledges it, noting it has been a long time since he last saw her. Kim Sun-woo observes him quietly, recalling that a character named Han Seon existed in the original story. Later, in his hotel room, Sun-woo examines the items he brought with him. He considers selling the conspicuous spear and sets aside the enchantment scroll for future use. He also prepares the medicinal herbs he plans to give to Han Seon. Sun-woo decides he will need to wait until the next day. Morning news begins broadcasting, reporting that a C-rank wizard has recently gained attention for clearing the hidden floor of the Tower of Proof and for subjugating a berserk demon at Han River Park. The Wizard Association praises the wizard's actions and announces a review for his promotion. Sun-woo watches people react to the news in public. Notifications appear for him. An achievement called Small Hero, gratitude from 2 million citizens, and increased interest from many characters. The accumulated reactions grant him a total of 21,000 points. Sun-woo takes in the results with satisfaction. He decides that, with his identity somewhat verified, he should visit Han Seon. He heads to Hansung Pharmaceuticals. People around him recognize him from TV and whisper about his appearance. Sun-woo notes that being famous feels good. He stops when he notices an older man approaching. He recognizes him as Jang Soo-gi, the sword of the Hansung family, and an S-rank wizard. Sun-woo questions why an S-rank appears as soon as the door opens. Jang Soo-gi also recognizes him as the person from the news. Sun-woo introduces himself as Kim Jin-woo and states that he wants to sell medicinal herbs obtained from the tower, requesting a personal appraisal from the director. Inside the office, Han Seon receives him. She remarks that it is interesting to be visited by the person currently receiving public attention and finds the item he brought even more intriguing. She examines the herb and identifies herself as the youngest daughter of the Hansung Group. She senses energy from the plant but notes that it lacks the monostems normally found in medicinal herbs. She explains that it is difficult to handle yet clearly exceptional. She asks how he discovered its efficacy. Sun-woo answers that he has studied medicine for a long time. He thought that the sacred herb is a special medicinal ingredient that greatly amplifies the efficacy of other ingredients but has no effect by itself. Also, processing the herb is extremely difficult and that no one currently has the ability to handle it properly. He concludes that the best option is to entrust it to a genius pharmacist. She remains unsure but focuses on the herb itself and asks if Kim Sun-woo has specific conditions. Sun-woo raises his hand and states his terms: an advance of 500 million won and a 0.005% stake in Hansung Pharmaceuticals. Seon repeats the percentage in surprise. He emphasizes that stocks are better than cash, arguing that once the sacred herb is commercialized, she will dominate the pharmaceutical market. Seon rejects giving equity and tells him to request something else. Sun-woo, expecting that response, asks for a VIP membership to the underground auction and adds that he wants to commission potion crafting and item procurement, stating he will pay for those services. Seon grows quiet as she considers it. Sun-woo tells her that, in exchange, he will reveal a weakness of her brother, Vice Chairman Han Sejin. Seon reacts sharply, startled. Sun-woo continues, saying she wants control of the Hansung Group enough that she does not care if it brings family conflict. Elsewhere, a news broadcast concludes a report on the wizard Kim Jin-woo's actions. A man watching comments that Jang Han is dead. The man watching the news insists they could have prevented Jang Han's death. He says that if they had stepped in first while Jang Han went berserk, the outcome would have changed. His anger rises as he recalls the moment, striking the ground and claiming they definitely could have saved him. Another man tells him to calm down, calling him Baek Gang. He explains that it was an order from their superior, and that helping a comrade who went berserk in a crowded area would have endangered them. Baek Gang clenches his fists in frustration, shouting in anger. He laments how long they must continue living in the shadows. His fury intensifies, and he swears to kill Kim Jin-woo. The other man questions Baek Gang's certainty, noting that Kim Jin-woo seems to be getting close to Baek Gang's client. Baek Gang laughs it off, stating confidently that the client is a monster who would cut down their own family with a smile. Outside a building at sunset, Han Sejin greets his younger sister as she approaches the building. She waves and returns the greeting. He tells her it has been a while, and she smiles at him. Later, the two ride together in a car. He remarks that it is good to see her again and asks whether work at the company is manageable. She answers that the work is difficult and dealing with people is tiring, explaining that she feels mentally drained. Sejin comments that their father was hasty in giving him company shares at a young age. He jokes that she can hand over her company shares to him if it is too much, then adds that, in exchange, once he becomes the chairman, he will give her the vice chairman position. Privately, she dismisses the idea. Elsewhere, Jinwoo saves her contact and notes that using 2 accounts should be safe. He reflects that meeting Han Sayon was the right choice, and that she handled selling the spear for him. He relaxes, thinking that she has reliable intelligence abilities. He recalls when he mentions Sayon that he will reveal her brother's weakness. She listens carefully and analyzes whether the information is useful. Jinwoo receives a notification on his phone. He opens a message from Han Sayon stating that she will act as his errand helper for 1 month. Another message confirms she will send the payment and the spear's sale price within the day, and she asks if he needs anything else. The system notifies him that her trust has increased and awards him points. Sunwoo looks at the screen in mild surprise. Kim Sunwoo looks at his phone and notes that the reply arrived faster than he expected, which works in his favor. He sends a request for potion crafting and an entrance ticket to the underground arena. Han Se-yeon replies that potion making takes time and that she will contact him when it is ready. Sunwoo confirms the deal and considers extending the arrangement later. Still posing as Kim Jin-woo, he thinks about how much the demons trouble him and recalls that the original novel contained a revenge storyline. Since he has saved enough points, he opens the shop's search function for sense-related traits. The results display 3 options, including a trait that detects killing intent within a radius. He checks its description and sees the high price. He acknowledges how expensive it is, but decides that he still needs it. Viewing the purchase as necessary for survival, he buys the trait. A few days later, Se-yeon delivers the potions he requested, explaining that they were made using divine herbs, and that the amplified effects also increase the side effects. Sun-woo, as Jin-woo receives them, checks the details of the mana elixir and examines its quality, noting that it appears to be in good condition. Examining one bottle, he reads that mana recovery speed increases greatly for 5 minutes, followed by mana exhaustion for 30 minutes. He concludes that the potion seems to be in good condition. Han Se-yeon grows suspicious as she observes Sunwoo. She notes that a skilled wizard seeking such a potion is unusual and wonders how he knows about her and her brothers. When she asks about the weakness he mentioned, Sunwoo, or say Jinwoo, explains that he learned it through a personal route and describes the findings as shocking. She recalls her brother's shady tendencies and remembers that he once killed someone. She also recalls that he had traces of contact with someone suspected to be a demon and demands to know how Sunwoo discovered this. Sunwoo attributes his knowledge to the original novel, recognizing Han Se-jin as a person who joins hands with a demon out of greed and becomes a blackened villain. Unable to explain this directly, he offers to reveal the information if Se-yeon gives him 5% of Hansung Pharmaceutical shares. Se-yeon refuses, telling him to just admit he does not want to explain. When he asks about the arena ticket, she says she secured one but that it cannot be traded, so he must enter with her. He realizes this explains her disguised outfit. She asks what he plans to do in the arena, and he simply intends to multiply the money he earned. Se-yeon reacts sharply, suspecting he will gamble everything. When he answers yes, she calls him crazy and declares their deal over after the month. A notification appears stating that Han Se-yeon is greatly disappointed, and Sunwoo's interest level with her drops significantly. He notes how disappointed she is but decides it does not matter. He picks up a rabbit mask and puts it on, thinking that by the time they leave the arena, he will gain even greater trust. He and Han Se-yeon head toward the guarded entrance. The guards acknowledge their arrival and check their access. One guard recognizes Sunwoo as a very important person member and welcomes him back. Sunwoo suddenly stiffens when he sees a man approaching. He internally identifies the man as Ha Ryung, an S-rank demon and top-tier villain. He realizes Ha Ryung's presence makes sense, since Ha Ryung is the organizer of the arena. Ha Ryung greets them politely and hopes they enjoy their time. Sunwoo watches him leave and reminds himself to avoid involvement. They continue walking until the arena interior becomes visible. Noise fills the space as a large crowd gathers, cheering from above. Han Se-yeon comments on the number of people in the excited atmosphere. Sunwoo explains that it is probably because of Yang Hong-soo. Se-yeon reacts with confusion at the name. Sunwoo describes the man as the most popular fighter at the moment, a wizard who has held the champion title for 3 years and whose combat ability is practically a rank. Besides Sunwoo, Han Se-yeon remarks that they won't earn much because everyone bets on the champion. Sunwoo then explains that to make money, a different approach is needed. Sunwoo raises his hand and says he will place a bet. The staff member tells him to proceed. Sunwoo states an amount, 530 million. He instructs them to put the entire 530 million on Yang Hongju's opponent. Se-yeon reacts with surprise and questions why he is comfortable with that decision. Sunwoo asks who Yang Hongju's opponent is, She repeats the question, shocked. Whereas, Ha Ryung is informed about the situation. He hears that a guest has wagered 530 million on Yang Hongju's opponent. He asks what kind of person made the bet, and the subordinate reports that the individual wore a rabbit mask identifying him as the very important person seen earlier. Ha Ryung observes that such an amount would be pocket change for someone wealthy, and wonders if the gambler is simply a rich person with questionable taste. Elsewhere, someone bursts into the room, calling out Kim Jin-woo's name, and asking if he appeared at the underground arena. Baek Gang suddenly reacts in surprise, calling for Kim Jin-woo, and questioning his appearance at the underground arena. Informer explains that the rookie participated in the event with Han Se-yeon. Hearing this, Baek Gang becomes excited. He orders a car prepared immediately, vowing to avenge Jang Han before the night ends. Back in the arena, a brutal fight unfolds. Ryangi clashes fiercely with his opponent, swiftly overwhelming him. The opponent screams and begs for mercy, then surrenders, but Ryangi attacks again before withdrawing. The match is declared over, naming Ryangi the winner. Spectators react wildly. Some who bet on him celebrate, others shout in anger. Se-yeon observing this matter and thinks the underground atmosphere makes the reactions harsher, though she believes the organizers will prevent any deaths. The next match is announced, Ryangi versus Yang Hongju. The betting screen displays 530 million placed on Ryangi and 2.8 billion on Yang Hongju. The announcer remarks that nearly everyone played it safe by betting on the champion. Nearby spectators discuss how excessive the wager is, remarking that the payout on the underdog is high but the risk is unreasonable. One of them points out that if Ryang loses, the bettor gets nothing, calling it foolish. Sunwoo ignores their chatter, privately calculating that if things go as planned, he will multiply his money nearly sixfold. Inside the arena, the champion, Yang Hongju, prepares for the fight, his physique drawing attention as the announcer declares that the fighters are entering. Ryang walks in next, drawing stunned reactions. Sunwoo realizes that Ryang is much thinner than expected, and assumes it is because he has not fully grown yet. He reflects inwardly that money is not the only reason he came. In his mind, he recalls information about John, the villain group important to the main story, and how Ryang eventually joins them. This is why he wanted to see Ryang fight at least once. Some spectators wonders who is that guy who placed the massive bet on him, but Sunwoo reassures himself with knowledge from the original novel. As the match begins, Ryang surveys his opponent and quietly notes that the overall level here is too low. Feeling reluctant, Yang Hongju declared that he would end the battle quickly. As he charged forward surrounded by energy, he dropped toward the grate, while his opponent waited below. Yang Hongju lunged forward with speed, but Ryang slipped past him. He exhaled as he moved, then Yang Hongju struck him hard. The impact sent Ryang flying back, smashing into the wall. Ryang steadied himself near the entrance while the opponent approached. Spectators reacted excitedly, and Sunwoo muttered in uncertainty, questioning whether Ryang could win. Outside, a car raced toward the location. Baek Gang considered interfering but restrained himself, thinking about Ha Ryung's event and the danger of ruining it. Baek Gang asked his driver when the event would end. Hearing that it was scheduled for 10:30, he decided there was no need to hurry and expressed his plan to kill. Inside the arena, Ryang countered with rapid strikes, energy bursting around him. His opponent Yang Hongju charged with a glowing fist, and Ryang met the incoming blow head-on as the attack collided violently. Yang Hongju charges forward, as Ryang weakly tries to rise. Yang Hongju punches him down again with force. Ryang crashes into the ground and struggles to stand. The audience chants Yang Hongju's name repeatedly. Ryang's supporter Sunwoo watches and reacts in confusion, wondering if Yang Hongju has actually won. Yang Hongju confidently assumes victory, but a sudden knife-like strike pierces his abdomen, causing heavy bleeding. He turns and sees Ryang standing at a distance, the attack clearly coming from him. Shocked, Yang Hongju questions what happened. Ryang approaches, exhausted but focused. Yang Hongju shouts in anger and rushes toward him again. Ryang concentrates energy into his hands. Purple, lightning-like power spreads outward as he releases it in all directions. The attack slams into Yang Hongju, tearing into him and forcing out a pained reaction. Yang Hongju collapses, blood pooling beneath him. Ryang stands over Yang Hongju's collapsed body. The spectators watch silently. One masked spectator hesitates, unsure how to react, and another worries about what will happen now. Se-yeon questions whether Yang Hongju really lost, then reacts in shock. The crowd begins shouting insults, calling the fight cowardly. Sunwoo states that his business is finished, and tells others to leave. As they walk away, Se-yeon suggests they go together. From above, Ha Ryung remarks that the outcome is too convenient, and says Ryang won, because Yang Hongju lowered his guard. He adds that he senses intent behind the bet. He calls for Chief Jung, and then orders him to find the man who won money from today's bet. Outside, cars pass along the road, Inside the car, Seyun questions to Sunwoo, asking what he is and how he knew Ryang would win. He replies that it was a hunch. She complains he never told her anything. He checks his phone and notes that today is a jackpot. His account shows over 3 billion won. He acknowledges earning an achievement. Notifications appear stating he achieved the Peerless Gambler title, and that Han Seyun trusts him again. Notifications appear stating that Han Seyun feels strong curiosity towards Sunwoo, and her interest level is added. Her interest rises to level 1. Sunwoo thinks about unlocking the interest level and earning 7,000 points. A notification explains how he regains points he spent earlier. Another display shows that killing intent toward him has been detected, along with details of the passive effect that senses killing intent within 500 meters. Sunwoo reacts with sudden alertness. He senses killing intent. He recalls the original story. There was someone who wanted to avenge Jung Han. Seyun asks why he is tensed. He calls out to Han Seyun. She appears confused as he addresses her. Their car swerves on the road. Meanwhile, another vehicle follows. The driver reports a change in the target's movement and asks what to do. Baekgang tells the driver to stop the car, then commands them to kill their target here. Sunwoo waits in an open area. Baekgang arrives but sees that Han Seyun is no longer present. He questions himself whether the man before him really killed Jongin, noting the man's untrained body and weak energy, whereas Sunwoo drinks a mana elixir and ready himself for the fight. System displays that mana recovery rate is increased 100% for 10 minutes. Sunwoo says he noticed he was being targeted. Baekgang notes that the opponent's energy has shifted, though the surge still lacks any real threat. Flames erupt around Baekgang as he raises blazing weapons overhead, acknowledging that Sunwoo had noticed his tail. He hurls a violent attack and demands Sunwoo's death, engulfing the field in fire. Sunwoo responds by gathering concentrated energy in his hands and launches a counterblast that collides with the incoming flames. The force creates a massive explosion, scattering light across the sky. Amid the aftermath, the attacker smirks, stating he still has 2 shots left. Sunwoo looks up sharply as fiery projectiles descend toward him again. A powerful explosion follows, lighting up the landscape. Far away, while driving the car, Seyun calmly observes the distant blast and remarks that the plan is unfolding. She recalls her memories when Sunwoo felt sudden killing intent. She notices his expression and questions it, then admits she suspects someone is following them. She asked if any possibility of a rival company being involved. He tells her it's something like that, and instructs her to head to a place with no people. Sunwoo focuses on the road ahead, stating that he needs to catch the target. Seyun asks if the person is someone he can take on, and he answers that it will not be easy, explaining that the opponent's mana is far above B rank, and she questions whether he is certain. Sunwoo maintains confidence and asks her to help him. Their car speeds forward. She agrees and says she will trust his skills, adding that he must return safely. Back at the present, a flaming spear rushes towards Sunwoo, but he evades it and thinks that this is nothing. He recalls that he used to be reinforcement type in his first year. Baekgang smirks while breathing heavily and remarks that all Sunwoo can do is dodge. Fire gathers around Baekgang as he prepares another attack, stating that in that case, he will escalate. A large wave of flaming spears descends, and he demands to see how Sunwoo will handle it. Sunwoo accelerates, and Baekgang notices that Sunwoo is even faster than before. Sunwoo closes in, reaching out. Sunwoo notes that he has less than 2 minutes of fire mana remaining, so gathers blue energy around himself and moves forward, thinking that he is almost ready. He concentrates the energy in his hands and prepares to finish the fight. A system effect activates, identified as Heart of the Wild, increasing his mana recovery speed by 1000% for 1 minute. Baekgang reacts with confusion as he senses the change. Sunwoo's energy intensifies, causing Baekgang to note that Sunwoo just became stronger. Sunwoo advances with increasing speed. Baekgang sees him approach and prepares multiple flaming spears. He acknowledges the danger of Sunwoo's approach and believes he must block it no matter what. A surge of flames and blue energy collides as Sunwoo pushes through. He moves low and fast, closing the distance. Baekgang raises a burning weapon while Sunwoo charges directly at him. Sunwoo forms another concentrated orb of blue energy, maintaining pressure and thinking that he cannot allow his opponent to have any opening. He forces more power into his body, causing Baekgang to curse in frustration. Sunwoo notes that he cannot aim for the head in his current position. Then he notices something and reacts with surprise. He strikes Baekgang in the torso and immediately grabs him by the neck, thinking that this is the end. Blue energy surges from Sunwoo, and Baekgang is suddenly forced back with shock. Sunwoo sees the opponent's bloodied hand and thinks that there is no way this is happening. He remembers that mana recovery speed increases by 50,000% for 10 minutes, followed by mana exhaustion afterward for 30 minutes. Sunwoo questions why it has to activate now as he faces Baekgang again. Baekgang's wounds emit steam, and he forms another flaming weapon. He raises it overhead as flames gather, preparing a finishing strike. He declares he will kill Sun Woo. Before he can say anything, someone strikes Baekgang's back, and Baekgang staggers with blood pouring from multiple wounds. Sun Woo exhales in relief and notes that help has finally arrived. Jang Sugil appears, and Sun Woo recognizes him. Jang Sugil, an S-rank wizard and sword of the Han Sung family, stands with his blade drawn. He steps forward and cuts Baekgang down in one motion, severing him completely. Sun Woo recalls that Jang Sugil is one of the strongest characters in the original novel and thinks about how Baekgang, who is at A-rank level, was defeated instantly. Jang Sugil expresses outrage that a demon dared to target the youngest daughter of the Han Sung family. Han Se-yeon runs to Sun Woo and calls his name. She checks if he is hurt. Sun Woo says he is fine and that dragging things out until help arrived paid off. She agrees. Han Se-yeon adds that her life was also at stake, so she brought the strongest person she could find. System messages appear. The B-rank villain Baekgang has been killed. A tiny change in the story has been detected. Causality rate increases by 0.6%. Han Se-yeon trusts Sun Woo again. Sun Woo gains 1,000 points. Sun Woo thinks that it feels good. Jang Sugil calls for Han Se-yeon's attention and asks if he should inform the chairman about the incident, pointing out that a demon attack is not a small matter. Sun Woo prefers that she does not. He explains that if people learn someone from Han Sung group was attacked by a demon, it will create chaos. He thinks there is no need to disrupt the original story more than necessary. Han Se-yeon considers his words and acknowledges that he is right. Jang Sugil agrees that letting the information spread would complicate things. Han Se-yeon suggests they all keep it secret and includes Jang Sugil in that decision. Jang Sugil silently accepts. 3 days later, Sun Woo lies in bed, checking his phone. Han Se-yeon had promised to get him any information he wanted as thanks for saving her from Baekgang. Sun Woo looks over what he requested, the launch date of the Shin Sengcho potion. A report describes Hansung Pharmaceuticals' development of a potion that enhances medicinal herbs. Another segment highlights that the stock price of Hansung's genius pharmacist is expected to rise sharply. Sun Woo reflects that he invested all the money he had into Hansung Pharma stock for this moment. He checks his trading app as the market opening approaches. He watches the clock turn from 8:59 to 9 and notes that the market is open. The stock price surges immediately, and he celebrates loudly. He recalls that before coming back in time, he spent his entire life hunting in dungeons and still could not afford a house. He reflects on how impossible it had felt back then and how unexpectedly easy money seems now. The feeling strikes him as strange. His phone vibrates and he checks the message. Han Se-yeon asks if he has time for lunch tomorrow and says she has a small gift for him. Sun Woo repeats the word gift while looking at his screen. The next day, he arrives at a cafe where Han Se-yeon is already waiting. She notes that he is early. Sun Woo explains it as an old habit and takes a seat. She mentions that Hansung Pharma's stock surged and that he must have made a significant amount thanks to her information. Asking if he made 5 billion, Sun Woo replies that he made 3 billion in a single day. She hesitates in surprise and adds that it is just a small thank you. It was possible because of her help. Sun Woo then asks what the gift is. Han Se-yeon explains that she found out who the demon was that attacked them. She names him Baekgang and adds that he used to be a famous assassin when he pretended to be human. She continues by saying she discovered someone Baekgang frequently worked with, and he is none other than his older brother Han Se-jin. Sun Woo thinks he already knew Se-jin dealt with demons but did not know about Baekgang specifically. He asks how that information is a gift for him. Han Se-yeon responds that they saved each other's lives, and she considers that reason enough. She places a small box on the table, saying this is the real gift, and suggesting they continue helping each other. Sun Woo takes the box. She explains she wanted to meet today because she will soon be very busy. He asks if something is wrong. Han Se-yeon says that now that she knows Se-jin was connected to Baekgang, it is obvious who sent the attack. She adds that she hates owing people, whether it is a favor or a grudge. Sun Woo thinks that Han Se-jin being the mastermind behind Baekgang is only Han Se-yeon's misunderstanding. He considers that Se-jin is still a bad person and will eventually interfere with her as well. He concludes that using her to deal with Se-jin is a good idea. Han Se-yeon calls out to Sun Woo, using the name Jin Woo. As with glasses, Sun Woo have Clark Kent abilities so no one recognize him. She says she hopes he likes the present. She mentions she chose it herself. Sun Woo thanks her. He opens the box to reveal a mana alloy bracelet. A system message identifies it as a super tough bracelet infused with mana, S5 durability, and notes that a bond has been formed successfully, awarding 1,200 points. Sun Woo smiles as he examines the bracelet. A purple system window appears before him, and he looks at it in surprise. The system declares that the character Ha Ryung is now curious about him, and awards 1,500 points. Elsewhere, Ha Ryung with a stern expression reads documents under dim lighting. He senses someone arrive, and that arrived person greets Ha Ryung. He comments that it has been almost 10 years, calling him Cheon-hae, and asks if he is there for demon conference business. He answers that he is, but first he wants to ask if he has ever heard the name Kim Jin-woo. He explains that 2 demons, Jangnam and Baekgang, were recently killed, and both incidents appear connected. He adds that Baekgang had been tracking a human mage before his death, someone who had visited that arena not long ago. Chunhae asks again if he has ever heard the name Kim Jin-woo. He repeats the question, watching his reaction. Ha Ryung holds up a photo of Sun Woo wearing a rabbit mask, and recalls the name Kim Jin-woo. He thinks that Kim Jin-woo is the name of the very important person who placed a bet on dying Kang Il. Chunhae asks Ha Ryung to provide information regarding Kim Jin-woo, adding that he will offer the human's blood as tribute to the graves of his fallen comrades. Dark energy gathers around him, but Ha Ryung calls his name Cheon-hae. Cheon-hae turns toward him and stiffens as the pressure around him increases. He struggles for breath, while Ha Ryung warns that if he even thinks of laying a hand on his client, he must be prepared for the consequences. Cheon-hae immediately apologizes, promising he will not touch Kim Jin-woo. He begs for mercy. Ha Ryung tells him to deliver the message from the 10 Demon Council. Cheon-hae explains that at the sacred relic called the Altar of the Prophet, a new prophecy has descended. The prophecy reveals that a child bearing the fate of demon annihilation will awaken their power in their 18th year, and the Demon King will meet his end by that child's hand. Ha Ryung notes that the king is going to cause trouble again. He asks if there was any other information. Cheon-hae replies that according to the Altar of the Prophet, the location of the Prophet's child who turns 18 this year is the Magic Academy. At the Magic Academy, Sun Woo stands alone. He decides he needs to put a hold on his activities as Kim Jin-woo for the time being. Through system message he realized that Ha Ryung feels curiosity toward him, and the system grants him 1500 points. Sun Woo remains expressionless and decides that it is not yet the time to involve himself with Ha Ryung. He lifts the scroll, mana rising around it. Sun Woo focuses on what he considers more important matters, and uses the enchantment scroll. The scroll activates and releases a spell called Shield. The shield forms a barrier that blocks a single spell, with a cooldown of 12 hours. Sun Woo watches the spell settle around his hand. He notes that the Academy's midterms will begin soon. The midterms serve as a proving ground where students must demonstrate their abilities before various officials. The midterms hold importance for Lee Seojin's future career, but their true significance lies in the awakening of the Prophet's child. A radiant figure appears, representing the being born with the power of demon annihilation and destined to become Lee Seojin's future comrade. The demons aim to hunt the unawakened Prophet's child, for that they invade the school at 4 in the afternoon, but their attack is met with complete annihilation at the hands of Lee Seojin, and that is the original flow of the story. Sun Woo reflects that although the scale of the event is not large, it is filled with critical foreshadowing. He then reminds himself to closely observe the Prophet's child along with Lee Seojin. On the training grounds, the instructor gathers the students and announces that besides the upcoming midterm schedule, there is one more announcement. The students complain about the workload, some asking to hear about the instructor's first love instead. The instructor laughs and explains that combat is training and training is combat. He continues, stating that to prepare for midterms, all second-year students will undergo free sparring for the next few days. One student repeats the words in confusion. The instructor adds that anyone who fails to find a partner may observe or practice alone. Amid the murmuring students, Yuahra watches Lee Seojin and determines she will pair with him this time. Sun Woo recalls that Lee Seojin and Yuahra are supposed to pair in the original story. However, he notes that no one has approached him to be their partner. It makes sense no one would pick him, despite his talent in theory and barrier dispelling. He reminds himself that no one wants to be stuck with the school's dead last in combat. Sun Woo, however, notes that none of this matters because he has already decided exactly who his partner will be. Yoon Ha-young looks around calmly as she thinks this. Suddenly, an explosion erupts outside, and she rushes to the window. Lee Seojun clashes with Yuahra using fire magic. Students watching identify them as the school's rank 1 and rank 2. Yoon Ha-young forms a cold aura in her hand and tells herself not to let the fight affect her. She thinks that comparing herself to true geniuses only worsens her state of mind. She remembers that 2 students discussed Yoon Ha-young as a possible sparring partner, but one rejects the idea, saying she is good in theory but terrible in practice. Another says he feels bad for her, as her talent seems unable to keep up with her intellect. They add that at least she is a nice person. Hearing this, Yoon Ha-young remains silent. Remembering this, she lowers her gaze, then gathers ice mana and releases it toward the practice dummy. The ice forms weakly and shatters on impact. She tries again and again but fails. Exhausted, she wonders why it does not work no matter how hard she tries. Sun Woo enters the room and tells her the form of her ice materialization is flimsy. She turns in surprise and calls his name. He approaches and adds that her ice lacks coldness and her accuracy is abysmal. He explains that this shows her fundamentals are weak overall. Sun Woo thinks that he is taking responsibility for his actions. He recalls that originally, thanks to Lee Seojin's advice during the previous dungeon exploration, Yoon Ha-young should have reached rank 8 by now. Because of his interference, she missed that opportunity and her growth has stagnated. He addresses her directly, saying she may be a mess right now, but if she stays with him, he will make sure she can at least pull her own weight. He thinks to himself that he has to help her grow, even if he must do it this way. Yoon Ha-young points at him and says he must be one of those people who lower others' confidence to make them listen. Sun Woo responds by asking who came O's. Then he suggests she may be acting out because she cannot refute anything he said. She reacts in shock and says she thought he seemed like a decent person during the dungeon exploration but realizes she was wrong about him. Sun Woo wonders if he pushed her too hard. He begins to apologize, but Yoon Ha-young interrupts him and tells him they should settle things with a fight. She gathers ice and prepares to attack, saying they should see how impressive the school's dead last really is. Sun Woo notes to himself that she accepted the provocation and tells her to bring it on. Sun Woo reacts with excitement as blue light gathers around him. He steps onto the glowing ground as the arena activates. Across from him, Ha-young announces that she will start and releases ice attribute magic. Her energy surges, and she moves forward with ice forming rapidly beneath her feet. Sun Woo notices that as soon as she grew serious, the intensity of her manifestation changed. She advances quickly, forcing him to run as she continues her assault. Sun Woo remarks that she is pretty good but says her attack pattern is simple. He adds that the strength of ice attribute manifestation magic should not be this weak. Lowering her head, Ha-young channels more power. When she asks if he wants to see a different pattern, she gathers energy upward, creating a tall spear of blue magic. She raises her arms and then asks how he feels about this before sending the large attack toward him. Sun Woo crouches in alarm as the impact creates a wide frozen crater. Ha-young looks at her hands in shock. She thinks about how the technique she could never master, no matter how much she practiced, suddenly worked, and she admits she is surprised. Ice continues spreading across the arena. Sun Woo studies the aftermath and thinks that for a person to unleash their ability, they first need appropriate stimulation. He steps forward on the frozen surface while Ha-young stands facing him from a distance. Sun Woo noted that provoking Ha-young had worked as expected. He observed her while maintaining distance. Ha-young focused on him, preparing another attack. She questioned how he intended to win by only running, and continued pursuing him with ice magic. As her magic expanded behind him, she remarked that Sun Woo likely had no intention of partnering with her. Ha-young's ice spread across the ground, forcing him to move quickly. Sun Woo internally recalled that inexperienced manifestation wizards shared a similar trait. Ha-young formed another sphere of magic. Sun Woo jumped toward her through the burst of light. She reacted in surprise as he closed the distance. Once he reached her, he gathered magic in his hand, knowing that closing the gap made opponents easier to handle. Their magic collided directly. Ha-young shouted as the clash pushed her back. She prepared another spell but Sun Woo countered before she could release it, causing a bright impact that halted her. Sun Woo ended the exchange with a calm gesture, acknowledging the match. Ha-young stood still, and then she admitted defeat, and stated that she might need to learn magic from Sun Woo. Sun Woo responded that she simply lacked knowledge on how to use her talent. He offered to help her. Extending his hand, he asked if she wanted to attempt it together. Ha-young considered his offer. Realizing he intended to help her develop her ability, they both handshaked, agreeing to work together. Ha-young tells him she will trust him this once. She then reminds him he must teach her properly and calls him her teacher. A system message appears, indicating that Ha-young's interest in Sun Woo has been added, and her favorability toward him has increased. Sun Woo explains that from this point on, she will begin attribute adaptation training. He hands her a small crystal, stating that all magic begins with adapting to an attribute. He describes adaptation as understanding the attribute, which leads to the ability to manifest magic. Ha-young listens as he warns that without mastering the basics, skill will not improve regardless of practice. Ha-young says she knows what attribute adaptation training is but hesitates, admitting that she has never heard of the method Sun Woo is introducing. He then pours a lot of ice cubes on the frown, and tells that the attribute directly with the body is the quickest way to learn. He urges her to begin adapting, and emphasizes that the key is immersion. Night falls elsewhere, where a dark ritual takes place among shadowy figures and corpses. Cheon-hae asks if everyone has gathered. His subordinates confirm and report that they have assembled active demons around the Magic Academy as ordered. Cheon-hae announces that the time to find the Prophet's child and infiltrate the academy has been set for next week. He states that, according to the collaborator inside the school, security becomes lax during the midterm exam period. One subordinate says the time has finally come. Another asks what happened to requesting help from Ha-ryung. Cheon-hae answers that the plan fell through, explaining that Ha-ryung claimed to have something more important than the future of their race. A subordinate protests that killing the prophet's child with only 4 B-rank demons is impossible. Another asks if they truly need help to kill one person. The subordinate calls him a fool and says lax security is not everything. He explains that on that day, scouts from many guilds will gather at the school, asking if he expects to handle all of them alone. He remains silent. Cheon-hae admits the point, but says it becomes a different situation if they trap those who would interfere. Cheon-hae gathers energy in his hands, forming a large purple sphere that expands into a barrier. The group identifies it as the Great Demon Barrier. Cheon-hae tells them they may rampage freely because he will be with them. He states that the child of prophecy must be killed. The sky shifts to an evening horizon. Ha-young recalls the training instructions. First the attribute, then the form. She is told to memorize the sensation with her entire body. She concentrates, forming ice, so she can visualize it even without its presence. A snowflake materializes in her hand, and ice energy rises sharply around her. Ha-young stands in a swirl of cold mana. Sun-woo watches her progress. Ha-young exclaims that she succeeded, and says she created an ice spear with her own power. Sun-woo thinks that improving this much in only a few days is impressive, and reminds her she has talent. A notification states that Yoon Ha-young trusts him and that Sun-woo has obtained 1,500 points. Ha-young declares her trust in teacher Kim Sun-woo. Sun-woo wonders if she is going too far. He asks if it is bearable inside the ice environment. Ha-young replies to add more ice. Sun-woo notes privately that she speaks tough but must be in pain. He tells himself she should endure a little longer because it is for her growth. He then resolves to raise her into a comrade for Lee Seo-jin. Ice falls around Ha-young as she remains in the cold pool, reacting sharply to the temperature. A girl watching from above sees Ha-young shivering and wonders what they are doing. She suspects it might be bullying. She imagines exaggerated school violence and panics, thinking she must report it to the teachers immediately. A teacher comments that watching talented students grow is always beautiful. The girl quickly approaches her, pointing out the 2 second-year students. The teacher identifies the exercise as attribute adaptation training. The girl repeats the word training uncertainly. The teacher explains she has been observing them since the first day. She describes Ha-young's rapid improvement in mana manifestation as amazing. However, she says the more surprising thing is another student's judgment, the one who understood instantly and guided his friend. The girl asks if she means senior Kim Sun-woo. The teacher is surprised she knows his name. Teacher remarks that she thought this girl only memorized the names of top students. Embarrassed, the girl denies the implication. The teacher explains that Sun-woo is a talented individual with high potential, making it good to know his name early. She adds that despite this, Sun-woo is currently ranked last in the school. The teacher questions how someone who always helps others could ever focus on improving his own skills. She says that in the end, people only see results. She then suggests giving him a chance to prove himself. Teacher concludes that she will look forward to the midterm exam. After some time, Sun-woo stared at the floating message, realizing he was in trouble. The system displayed information about a space-time pocket with a 30-kilogram storage capacity. Another window revealed that the item was on a limited-time discount, available for 5 days. The pocket was precious and useful in both daily life and combat, since stored items could be summoned anywhere. The discounted price appeared next, showing it cost 20,000 points while Sun-woo only had 8,500. He panicked, frustrated that the discount appeared when he lacked the points. After his outburst, he calculated that he needed 11,500 more within 5 days. Determined, he resolved to find a way to gather the remaining points. Later, he received a message notification. At school, teacher Lee Hu-young announced that Yu-ara, Park In-hwan, and Sun-woo had been selected for the second-year Manifestation System special class. She clarified that it was an advanced class meant for students with high potential regardless of their grades. Sun-woo remembered that Seojun had been in the Enhancement System special class, and thought that joining would let him interact with him more often. Before he could speak, In-hwan objected to Sun-woo joining. He introduced himself as rank 5 of the second year, and complained about being grouped with someone ranked last in the entire school. He urged Ara to agree, but Yu-ara responds calmly, questioning why she should be involved and stating that everyone should mind their own business regardless of who joins the special class. Park In-hwan hesitates, flustered. He grows frustrated, thinking that this is why he has no friends. The teacher turns to Sun-woo and asks for his opinion on In-hwan's complaint. Sun-woo answers that if rank is the issue, he will raise his rank. The teacher accepts this and tells Sun-woo to prove his skills in the midterm exam before joining the class. Sun-woo wonders if achieving rank 80% or higher is possible. Later, inside a large arena filled with students, Sun-woo walks with his partner Ha-young. She says that if he follows the plan, it is possible. He agrees to follow his instructions. He explains that the second-year midterm exam is a cooperative battle. Students must team up to fight a summoned creature called the Green Giant. Two giants appear before the test participants. He explains that the creature can be defeated immediately if its weakness is struck, but the weak point appears in a different location each time and is difficult to find. He adds that most students score well by enduring the monster physically. He describes that truly skilled students can eliminate the monster entirely. In the arena, Lee Seojin and Yu Ahra display high-level combat ability and defeat their monsters. Observers comment on Seojin's performance and note that even his partner possesses considerable power. Sunwoo states they will climb to the top ranks. Later, Ha Young releases ice energy as Sunwoo asks her to create a path. She confirms she understands and forms a trail of ice beneath him. Sunwoo runs across the frozen ground toward the Green Giant. Ha Young intensifies her output, ice surging from beneath her feet. The ice rises and spreads, forming a structure that extends forward. Sunwoo continues moving along it. As he approaches the monster, students in the stands recognize him. They comment that he is the one who was humiliated in the public ranking test, and note that people suspected admission fraud. They wonder if he will experience mana depletion again. A system message informs Sunwoo that 254 people feel anticipation toward him, and he gains 1,000 points. Sunwoo notes that everyone expects him to be humiliated. Another system message appears, stating that the outsider's benefit activates. The Green Giants react as the benefit triggers. Sunwoo steadies his footing on the ice and thinks that this time he has no intention of playing the role expected of him. He gathers mana in his hands, forming light blue energy. He launches the attack. Beams of condensed mana pierce through the Green Giants. The strikes land on their glowing weak points, and their bodies react as the attacks tear through them. A Green Giant charges toward Sunwoo. Sunwoo stands with gathered mana in his hand. The monster leaps, raising its arm to strike. Sunwoo releases energy and says the fight appears easier than expected. Another Green Giant raises its fist, preparing an attack. Sunwoo notices something unusual and recognizes the figure in the crowd as Cheon-hae. He realizes Cheon-hae is the mastermind already inside the school. He recalls that the fiends, or say demons, were meant to invade the school after the exam ended at 4 p.m. Ha Young call out to warn him. Sunwoo reacts as the Green Giant descends. The impact shatters ice across the floor. Sunwoo falls back from the force. Ice spears strike the Green Giant, piercing its body as the ice shell around it cracks apart. Ha Young calls out to Sunwoo, telling him to snap out of it. She pulls him up as he regains balance. The Green Giant roars and gathers more energy. Sunwoo raises his hand toward the monster. Sunwoo steps forward and unleashes a concentrated beam of mana. The blast shoots through the Green Giant, knocking multiple giants back. Dust and ice scatter around him and Ha Young. Spectators react with surprise. In the stands, some students stare in shock while others watch their devices as the live broadcast continues. Comments appear, questioning if Sunwoo is the rumored student, reacting to his fighting level, asking how he performed the attack, mentioning the constellation manifestation technique, and stating he targeted the weakness. Some dismiss it as luck. Another student remarks that Sunwoo is quite capable. The crowd expresses excitement, noting they did not expect much but witnessed a strong match. They comment on Ha Young's manifestation level as well. Ha Young hugs Sunwoo and tells that they succeeded. Sunwoo responds briefly. System messages appear. 582 people remember his face, granting 3,000 points. He gains the B-class prospect achievement and receives 2,000 points. Character Kim Deokyeon takes interest in him, granting 1,000 points. Character Park In-hwan feels humiliated, granting another 1,000 points. Sunwoo looks up and thinks that the test is not what matters right now. He focuses on the time period. A clock shows the current time. A thought forms in Sunwoo's mind as he realizes that events are deviating from the original story. Whereas we see Cheon-hae walks toward the school building, while sunlight reflects. Sunwoo wonders if his actions are affecting the original plot. He considers that even the sequence of how the school is supposed to be saved might change. Inside the hall, an announcement displays the rankings and levels of the examinees. Ah Young watches Sunwoo closely and asks if he is alright. Sunwoo, sweating, tells her he is fine and only tired. He says he wants to rest for a moment and asks her to head to the training room, mentioning he has feedback to give her. She assumes she made mistakes during the exam. Sunwoo reassures her, telling her to be confident and that she performed perfectly. Ha Young reacts with surprise and emotion. Ha Young thanks him when he expresses relief, and she tells him to rest properly. She adds that if he feels too unwell, he does not need to come to the training room. She waves to him as she walks away. Left alone, Sunwoo reflects on the disrupted timing of events. he decides he must now check how much of the original story has changed. He thinks about what should have been happening according to the script, and begins searching through the crowds. He notes that Lee Seojin should, at this time, be experiencing a specific moment. Soon he spots him among a group of students. Several guild recruiters surround Lee Seojin, handing him different guild invitations and insisting he choose theirs. Others cheer loudly for him, holding signs and praising him. One recruiter offers an apartment lease as an incentive for joining their guild. Seojin apologized, explaining that he was only 18 and unable to join a guild yet. The recruiters told him to at least keep their cards, saying they had skipped upper year scouting to watch his exam. When another group called out to him, Seojin turned and saw Kim Sun-woo. Sun-woo informed him that teacher Jang Anchol was looking for him and likely wanted to discuss his exam results. Nearby, two observers commented on Sun-woo's performance, calling it a stable fight, and noting his promising growth. Seojin reacted with mild surprise before running off, saying he couldn't keep the teacher waiting, and would listen to guild offers later. The recruiters remarked that he had nearly signed, and decided to return to observing the third-year exams. Members of the special task force discussed Sun-woo's evaluation. Jung Hyun-soo asked senior Kim Deokyun about Sun-woo's fight. Deokyun replied that it was not bad and appropriate for the third disciple of Chairman Kim Jingchul, the strongest mage. Hyun-soo argued that Sun-woo still lacked real combat experience. Deokyun responded that Hyun-soo acted as if Sun-woo were already joining their unit, reminding him they had only come to scout for after graduation. Hyun-soo admitted he regretted not speaking to Sun-woo earlier during the Han River incident, thinking that if Sun-woo had fought then, he might have gained the experience Deokyun mentioned. Kim Deokyun considers the importance of experience. He asks what Jung Hyun-soo thinks of the last student who appeared. Deokyun identifies him as Kim Son-woo, and notes that, despite being ranked last, his combat sense was remarkable. He adds that it goes beyond simple instinct. He recalls Sun-woo instantly identifying a weak point during combat, something achievable only through real experience. Hyun-soo expresses disbelief, questioning how an 18-year-old could have gained such experience. Deokyun remembers Seojin mentioning that a student resembled Mage Kim Jinwoo. He then realizes that the student was Kim Seonwoo from Seojin's class. Although unusual for someone his age to use compression manifestation, he decides to remember Seonwoo's name. Later, Seonwoo meets his teacher at the building entrance, and is told he is late from greeting his peers. Inside, the hallway is filled with people. After leaving the crowd, Seojin thanks Sunwoo for helping him avoid staying longer. He asks why he returned to an area crowded with scouts. Sunwoo explains that he wants to preview next year's exams. Seojin states he does not want to be cornered by scouts again. His friend Sunwoo reassures him that the scouts have moved to reserved seats with the teachers and entered through a different path, meaning they will not encounter them. He asks if Seojin doesn't want to keep his rank. Seojin considers it and responds briefly. He suggests that if they watch quietly, no one will notice them. Sunwoo agrees. As they look toward the exam hall, Sunwoo thinks about the original story. He recalls that the main attack originally began in the third-year exam hall, the place where making contact with the insider was easiest. He remembers a cloaked figure walking into the building and the sudden chaos that followed. He thinks about the uncertainty of when the attack will occur and remembers Chonhae, concluding he must keep Seojin in the exam hall. He considers this the fastest way to protect the child of prophecy. He asks if nothing happened after the exam. Seojin confirms nothing else occurred. Then he clarifies, asking if he means the scouts, and says such situations are common. He tells Sunwoo that as long as he is alright, that is enough. Sunwoo notes internally that the original flow remains, mostly intact, and feels relieved. In the third-year hall, sparring begins, and the crowd reacts loudly as the matches start. Outside, someone reports that the scouts have entered the third-year exam hall, matching the insider's prediction. Cheon-hae asks how everything else is progressing, so he reports that monster summoning circles have been placed throughout the school. He explains that Jin-san becomes uncontrollable when he sees a human, so they have placed him in a secluded location. Cheon-hae praises Yang-yun for his work. The women says their success is thanks to Lord Cheon-hae joining them. Cheon-hae lifts his hand. He tells them they will begin. Dark energy gathers around him as he forms a large sphere of power. He announces the start of their objective, the hunt for the child of prophecy. Inside the exam hall, lightning erupts as a student launches an attack. His opponent is struck and overwhelmed. She raises her hands and surrenders. The match official declares Park Min-ye forfeits. The final winner is announced, Kim Chang-yun. Seo-jun watches the broadcast excitedly. He finds the third-year exam entertaining. He notes that Kim Chang-yun's techniques resemble a textbook example of manifestation-type abilities, while Park Min-ye's movements are sharp and precise. Sunwoo, he thinks about how he scanned the entire arena during the match, but never saw Cheon-hae. He wonders what is happening. Seojun notices his distracted behavior and asks who he is searching for. Sunwoo hesitates before answering that he was only wondering if any guild might want to scout him. Seojun encourages him, saying someone is bound to call, and remarks that Sunwoo has grown significantly since the start of the semester. Images of Sunwoo's earlier exam flash through his mind, showing the intense display of power that would have shocked anyone watching. Seojun asks how he managed to grow so quickly. Sunwoo remains quiet as a sudden surge of energy erupts across the arena, glowing in bright purple. Students react with confusion as the energy expands. Sunwoo and his friend rise from their seats in alarm. Sunwoo internally fears what this phenomenon might mean. He recognizes that this kind of event never occurred in his previous life, leaving him unsettled as he watches the energy intensify overhead. A purple barrier surrounds the area, and people gather in confusion. Someone questions whether it is a barrier, while others wonder if something went wrong at school and urge to call the teachers. From above, the barrier glows as people stand scattered below it. Some ask what is happening and whether an accident occurred. Near the crowd, a bag lies on the ground. Energy crackles around it as purple light builds. The energy condenses into a dark, swirling core in the air. People nearby notice it and freeze in shock. A creature bursts out from the distortion. Someone recognizes it as an attack. Monsters leap forward, chasing fleeing people. Someone screams that it is a monster and calls for help. A loudspeaker announces that monsters have infiltrated the school and orders students and visitors to evacuate to the safe zone. The message begins repeating as the barrier remains in place. Cheon-hae watches and notes that all teachers, scouts, and battle grade mages have been sealed inside. He concludes that if no one else can help, the child of prophecy will have to reveal himself. A man steps forward as monsters approach. His movement is sharp and immediate. He swings his weapon, releasing a red arc that cuts through the monster in front of him. Cheon-hae watches with a tense expression. He thinks about how this is possible. The man with the weapon stands calmly, holding a red-stained blade. Another armed man stands behind him. Cheon-hae questions if the special task force is here. A group of students and staff gather nearby. Someone confirms that it is the special task force. It is said that they came to watch Seojun's match. They are currently holding back the monster group and rescuing people. Seojun thinks that if the task force came to see him, the team leader might be Kim Daek-hyun. A staff says that once the barrier is undone, they will join immediately, and tells the students not to be afraid and to trust their teachers. Sunwoo thinks that if the task force joins, they can still overturn the situation, but notes that there is a problem. The barrier remains active around the area as monsters continue moving inside it. Sunwoo thinks about how to break the barrier. A student presses both hands against the barrier and shouts for the mages to save them. Another regrets not going inside the arena. A teacher named Kim Yoon-jin says that to release the barrier immediately, they need one more A-rank support-type mage besides the one already present. Others react that they do not have anyone like that, and note that high-rank support types are extremely rare. Kim Yoon-jin tells them to keep looking and says that by herself it will take 30 minutes to free the people trapped inside. She reacts to the mention of 30 minutes and realizes that relying on just 2 task force members for that long is unrealistic. Sunwoo thinks that time is not the real issue, and that breaking the barrier itself is simply impossible. He recalls that Cheon-hae's magic barrier ranks among the strongest in the world, and that even in the original outcome, a surprise attack could not break it. Lee Seojun could not defeat him. Sunwoo concludes that he has no choice but to step in and decides to try himself. A woman appears and introduces herself as an A-rank support mage named Yang Young-eun. She says it is fortunate she was nearby, and Kim Yoon-jin reacts in shock. Yang Young-eun says she will handle the barrier. Sunwoo thinks that even if he claims that Yang Hyun is a demon, it would only raise suspicion instead of resolving anything. She says she will begin first and asks for assistance with the barrier release. Yoon-jin agrees. A large magic barrier activates around them, with complex patterns spreading outward as students watch from a distance. Seojun feel relieved, thinking that the teachers are looking for a way out, and that they should be able to leave soon. Sunwoo says no. Seojun asks why, and Sunwoo says he will explain later and tells him to come with him. Yoonjin touches the barrier and senses something is wrong. She understands that when the barrier is released from one side, it locks again with a second layer from the other side, and that the barrier is not weakening but getting stronger. Cheon-hae observes the situation and notes that the support-type teacher is quite perceptive. He decides he needs to draw her attention and tightens his grip. Goblin creatures swarm as blood stains the ground where several have already fallen. He and another fighter cut through the attackers, forcing the rest back as more rush in from the archway. One goblin breaks through the chaos and lunges toward Yang Hyun. Before it can strike, it is cut down, its body crashing to the ground. The man checks on Yang Hyun, who confirms he saved her. As they regroup, it becomes clear that the enemies are attacking the barrier from both inside and outside. Nearby, a younger fighter warns his senior that he almost got caught, while the senior responds that if that happens again, he will be forced to turn in his task force badge. Task force officer turns toward Yang Hyun. and states that he swears on the honor of the task force that he will protect her. Yang Hyun responds that she understands, then thanks him sincerely. Whereas Seojun and Sunwoo stand behind the testing hall, Seojun asks why they came all the way there. Sunwoo answers that no one is around and says they will break the barrier at that spot. Seojun asks about the release attempt happening at the front. Sunwoo explains that the support mage, Yang Young-yoon, is a demon and is pretending to release the barrier while actually reinforcing it. Seojun reacts in shock and says they need to tell people immediately. Sunwoo responds that it is only a suspicion and there is no proof yet. Seojun says it can be proven, since Sunwoo was even offered a special class invitation for barrier release skills. Sunwoo replies that this still does not guarantee people will believe him. He explains that if he breaks the barrier, Seojun should go and tell everyone. He adds that if a world-class genius says it, everyone will believe it. Seojun falls silent, then agrees and asks if he can really break the barrier. Sunwoo says they should try. He kneels and places both hands on the ground, forming a magic circle. A system message appears stating that the unique trait for analyzing and interpreting is activated. Another system message states that the magical formula is being interpreted. The barrier reacts, spreading patterns across its surface. The barrier shows signs of being pierced, but the reaction fades. Sunwoo says that it was nothing. He says they need to resolve the incident quickly. Seojun stops him and asks one question. He asks why he keeps hiding his achievements, and says it would be better if people acknowledged his abilities. Sunwoo replies that this is enough for him, and asks Seojun to keep everything that happened there a secret, whereas Jeonhae curses Yang Hyun and says she could not even guard the barrier properly. Yang Young remarks that she definitely double-locked the barrier and questions who on earth could have done this. Officer acknowledges the effort of Yang Young and says that the work was truly hard. The task force gathers, and someone declares that from here on they will handle the rest. He steps forward and attacks the monsters, striking them down one after another. The goblins scream as they are thrown back and defeated. Teacher Lee Hee-young releases a powerful spell, crushing the remaining monsters in a single blow. After the battle, Officer comments that it was a clean finish, and addresses Teacher Lee Hee-young, adding that her one-hit skill is still impressive. Another officer thanks them for their cooperation, and says the area should be cleared quickly. The officer says it was an honor to witness the Special Operations Unit skills in person. The officer, or say Kim Yoon-jin, states that they do not know where the mastermind behind the disturbance is hiding, and says they must regroup and begin a full search immediately. Yoonjin says she does not know if Yang Young is the mastermind but points out that there is one suspicious person. She steps closer and grabs Yang Young by the collar, demanding to know what she did when the barrier was lifted. Others react, telling Teacher Yoon-jin to calm down and saying that accusing someone of being a demon is going too far, especially towards someone who helped. Observers question whether a teacher should behave that way. Task Force Agent Hyunso asks whether they should intervene, and Officer Kim Yoon-jin answers that it is not time yet. Young calmly says it only took a long time because she had to match Teacher Yoon-jin's skill level, then says what she saw at that time was different. Explains that each time the barrier was dispelled, it relocked itself in a double layer. Seojun arrives and introduces himself, then asks Teacher Yang Young whether she was at the third-year exam hall. Teacher Kim Yoon-jin reacts in shock, asking how Seojun knew that. Seojun says he sensed something was wrong with the barrier and asks everyone to keep what happened there a secret. He adds that he at least knows the theoretical workings of barriers and admits he does not want to lie to the teachers, but feels he has no choice. Another person recalls an A-rank support mage named Yang Young-yoon and suggests investigating her. Yang Young stands alone, surrounded by people, and thinks about what to do now. A response comes telling her to do what must be done. Dark energy rises around Jeonhae as others notice him and identify him as the mastermind, shouting to catch him. Both officers clash with weapons as power flares between them. Kim recognizes Yang Young as an A-rank demon and says the situation is becoming serious. Yang Young thinks that if the mission fails, she will have to do what must be done. Fighting breaks out. Yang Young is identified as an A-rank demon. The clash turns violent, and blood is spilled as Seojun strikes decisively, stating that the enemy has come to the wrong place. The aftermath shows the fallen enemy and members of the Magic Academy securing the area. Seojun thanks team leader Kim Dae-kyun for the help, and Kim Dae-kyun notes that it has been a year since they last met, and praises Seojun for becoming a decent mage, telling him to claim his reward later. Left alone, Seojun thinks that he should have asked for the account number beforehand. He then realizes that the one who truly deserves the thanks is Kim Sunwoo himself, reacting with frustration as the thought sinks in. He lands heavily on a wooden surface as blue energy scatters. He slides across the floor, barely keeping balance. A burst of fire erupts ahead. He turns toward it, startled, and realizes the attack is coming straight at him. He reacts too late and shouts that this cannot be happening. A figure appears through flames as name Uara is revealed, described as a second year in rank 2 of the Magic Academy. The speaker calls the situation disappointing. The man mocks her, saying that for someone called a genius and Seojun's rival, this is all she has. He asks whether something is holding her back from using her full strength. Ha Young trembles, confused about how things ended up like this. She recalls training together before monsters and demons suddenly appeared. She decides she has to help and gathers magic in her hands. She calls Ara's name and declares that she will fight alongside her. Ara stands surrounded by flames and tells her not to interfere and to run. She gathers fire in her hand and says she will handle him alone. She rushes forward and releases a burst of fire toward the man. He faces the attack and reacts calmly, asking if that is all she has. He understands she is not the one. He steps forward and catches her neck. He comments that her blood is filled with high-quality mana and that he cannot hold himself back. Ara struggles, clutching her throat, unable to breathe. The man is struck from the side by blue mana and is forced to release her. Ha-young steps forward with ice gathering around her hands and tells him to let her go. She declares that his opponent is her. He mocks the situation, calling it touching friendship, and asks what she thinks she can do with that. He reaches out again with dark energy. Ha-young gathers her power and admits she knows she cannot win, but still prepares to fight. She refuses to abandon her friend and run away to save herself. She releases a burst of blue energy forward, striking the opponent. His eye reacts as he recognizes the power and focuses on her. She realizes that the power is not ice and notes that the mana consumption is extremely high. He identifies her as the child of prophecy, a mage born with the power to destroy demons, and declares that he has finally found her. He reaches out, saying he will kill her with his own hands. A new voice stops him, stating that it will not happen, and that the child of prophecy is an important figure. At that moment, Sunwoo appears, surrounded by blue energy labeled as the heart of the great nature. He places a hand over his chest and states that the opponent is the only one who will die here. The opponent shouts for Sunwoo not to get in his way and unleashes a violent surge of dark energy toward him. Sunwoo raises his hand as a magic barrier forms. Sunwoo moves through the air with magic gathered in both hands and strikes downward. The opponent is hit and coughs up blood. The opponent drops to his knees, shocked by the amount of mana, thinking it is insane and questioning how someone like Sunwoo could have it. Sunwoo answers that he has more experience than he appears to have and pushes mana forward. The opponent, injured and bleeding, thinks that he will not die alone. He rushes forward to kill Ha-young, who he thought is the child of prophecy. Sunwoo reacts instantly and releases a powerful magic strike. The attacker is slammed into the ground. Blood splashes across the floor as the impact spreads. Sunwoo stands calmly, controlling the remaining mana around his arm. A system message appears stating that the B-rank villain Jinsan has been successfully eliminated. Another message states that causality increases by 0.4. Another message states that the title Savior has been achieved. Another message states that 3,000 points have been received as a reward. Sunwoo stands calmly in the academy grounds as the notifications fade. He thinks that her awakening happened earlier than expected, but she managed to withstand it. The demons destined to be her natural enemies will keep coming after the academy. Ha-young lies unconscious nearby. Yoon Ha-young and Lee Seo-jun will grow because of this. He addresses Yoon Ha-young and Ara, then adds that both of them will change. A news article appears reporting that a demon attacked the Magic Academy, and that Lee Seo-jun, Ara, and 2 other students defeated it. Ara lies in a hospital bed, holding her phone, thinking that it is pathetic to be treated like a hero when she barely did anything. Ha-young responds, questioning how Ara could say she did nothing, and Ara tells her to go back to bed. She recalls that she was protected from the demon, and then embarrassingly passed out. She reassures Ha-young that it is only minor bruising, that the school is overreacting. Ha-young says they just want her to rest since the exams are over, and she should take it easy. Ara recalls hearing that the demon was fought while she was unconscious. She asks why she did not run, saying they are not close enough to risk their lives for each other. Ha-young smiles and says anyone would have done the same. A memory surfaces of a hand reaching out when she was alone, and a voice saying that is why courage was found to stand against the demon. She tells Ara that it is okay to rely on someone when things get hard. Ara repeats the word quietly. Her red eyes tremble as another memory flashes. Fire, collapsing rubble, her parents shouting for her to run, her own voice calling out to them as everything falls apart. She grips the blanket, shaken, caught between the present and the past, as the meaning of relying on someone begins to sink in. Ara sits upright on the bed and says that she does not need anyone's help. Ha-young tells her that even so, this time it is okay to say thank you. She explains that if Sunwoo had not come to save them, neither of them would be alive. Ara reacts in surprise and thinks of the name Kim Sunwoo. Ara asks what it means that Sunwoo came to save them, and Ha-young tells Sunwoo to explain it himself. Sunwoo appears from the curtain, greets them, and asks if everyone is okay. When asked why he came, Sunwoo says he came to give something. He hands Ara an envelope and explains that it is her share of the demon's subjugation reward, 5 million won. Ara asks why he is giving it to her as people said he was the one who killed the demon. But Sunwoo explains that when he arrived, the demon was already critically weakened thanks to her firepower and Yoon Ha-young's support. Sunwoo adds that all he did was land the final blow and says the reward belongs to her. Ara firmly refuses, saying she is not taking money earned from someone else's help and that it would be embarrassing. Ara stands by the curtain saying the 5 million should be split between Sunwoo and Yoon Ha-young. Ara hesitates, adding that there is more. Ara turns back, her her face red, and quietly expresses thanks for being saved. Sunwoo and Yoon Ha-young are seen from behind, as the moment passes in silence. Sunwoo thinks that he had planned to get closer to Ara through Yoon Ha-young, and wonders if he acted too early, calling it a shame. A blue system window appears, stating that Yuara's interest in Sunwoo has increased, that her affection level is now 1, and that he has received 2,000 points as a reward. Sunwoo reacts silently. Ha-young thinks that she is acting that way because she is embarrassed, noting that her pride is strong. Another blue window appears announcing a special discount. It explains that a spatial pocket that can store up to 30 kilograms is available at a limited time discount for 1 day, priced at 20,000 points. With his current points shown as 20,000, Sunwoo responds that it is fine and says he guesses so. Ara walks alone down the hospital corridor. She thinks about Sunwoo lying about something no one would believe until the moment she passed out, recalling that the demon was still at full strength and had not even gone berserk. Ara remembers the fight and concludes that this means Sunwoo killed the demon on his own. Someone who was neither a manifestation type nor a support type suddenly showed talent in every field, as if he were a prodigy. Yoon Ha-young's amazing skill from earlier is mentioned, and it is said that she explains Sunwoo helped her greatly as well. With abilities like that, it is questioned why he would live such a low-key life. For people their age, the only reason to hide one's power would be a specific one. She thinks about whether Kim Sunwoo could be the same person and wonders if he also lost his family to them. Sunwoo tells Ha-young not to tell anyone yet about the power he awakened while fighting the demon, because drawing attention would only make training harder. He adds that above all he wants to study his power himself, a power that defeats demons. She encourages him, saying that is the right attitude. Compared to the original story, Yoon Ha-young awakened her demon-slaying power about a month earlier. Even if she is still inexperienced, building her strength early will be a huge help in the future battle against the Demon King. With this, one of Seojin's future companions can be safely raised. Sunwoo says he will make her a training plan, and suggests they work on it together, telling her to ask anything she is curious about. After a brief pause, she says there is one thing. She heard he ran straight to the training grounds the moment the barrier was lifted, and asks if he did that for her. She brings up the midterms and the attack, saying he always looks out for her, like this. She asks him not to say it, not to tell her that he likes her. Sunwoo is left speechless. He tells her it is not what she thinks. He explains that during the midterm he simply believed in her potential, and during the demon incident, he only ran because he saw the explosion. She reacts quietly to his explanation. Ha-young says she understands and looks calmer. He asks if Ha-young thought of something else. Sunwoo leans closer and asks again if she thought of something else. Ha-young quickly denies it and says it is not that. She waves her hands and says it was just a joke, telling him not to misunderstand. Sunwoo thinks that he did not expect something like that, and notes that Yoon Ha-young is a naive and bright type of girl. He adds that she needs to be where she belongs. Sunwoo thinks he will handle the planning. Yoon Ha-young responds that it is fine. Yoon Ha-young smiles shyly and thinks that she should not misunderstand. She then tells Sunwoo to at least take something and hands him an envelope. She says it is 7.5 million won, and that it is his tuition fee. She adds that they will be working together from now on and calls him teacher. Sunwoo calls Yoon Ha-young's name in surprise. She says she will raise him properly, and Sunwoo answers that it is fine anytime. He thinks that kids really do not know the value of money. Sunwoo says they will start tomorrow. Suddenly, he checks his phone and reacts in shock, wondering why everyone is reacting that way. After midterms, he finally meets teacher Lee Ha-young's requirement and enters the special class for the gifted, something he had never done before regressing. Inside the lecture hall, ranked students are shown. Kim Chang-hyun at 3rd year rank 1, Park Min-ye at 3rd year rank 4, Choi Seo-yoon at 1st year rank 1, and John Min-gi at 1st year rank 2. Seojin calls Sunwoo over as he enters. Yuara watches him silently, while Sunwoo thinks that being here will let him intervene more easily in future key events. Park In-hwan mocks him, saying a rat snuck in, and that killing a dying demon does not earn him a seat among them. Sunwoo replies that he is here because he met the teacher's requirement and that it is none of their business. Park In-hwan steps closer, threatening him and calling him 72nd place. Tension rises until Seojin shout his name and tell him to cut it. Park In-hwan asks if he have any idea of how many ranks of special class are dropped cause of Sunwoo. Yuara mentions Kim Seon-woo's midterm score time was 22.43 seconds. Park Min-yu watches silently. Yuara says that if tests from the start of the semester are ignored, she is still better than Park In-hwan, and tells him to behave because he is lowering the level. Park In-hwan mocks her, saying he did not know she cared so much, but says he cannot do what she is telling him. He throws a punch at Kim Seon-woo. Sunwoo blocks the attack and asks what happens if Park In-hwan cannot do it. Park In-hwan curses as his hand ignites, then reacts in shock. A man steps in and tells him to cool his head. Park In-hwan is kicked down the steps and crashes onto the floor as others look on. Officer Hyun-soo asks if Kim Sunwoo is alright. Sunwoo thanks him for helping, smiling, and thinks that things are proceeding just like the original storyline. Hyun-soo tells Sunwoo that he enjoyed watching his midterm and could see his talent. He explains that the special task force will visit the school for special class activities. He urges Park In-hwan to wake up, and it is noted that his earlier behavior suggests he knew this would happen. Hyun-soo wonders if he went too hard from the start. Hyun-soo recalls a memory. He reacts in disbelief at being told to go to school. A senior officer explains that demons who had been hiding attacked the Magic Academy as a group. Hyun-soo notes that demons usually act alone unless ordered by the king, and that their easy infiltration suggests an insider helped them. Senior officer instructs the team to work with the school to find the demon's objective and the insider. In present, he introduces himself as Hyun-soo from the Association Special Task Force and greets the class. A student asks if the special class will be deployed to demon hunts or terrorism suppression. Hyun-soo replies that they will not be sent into real combat right away. Under his guidance, they will perform missions searching areas where monsters appear. He warns them to report anything suspicious immediately, then adds that it is actually a secret training field for the task force. Hyun-soo thinks that there is one dungeon, but it has already been completely cleared. Surveillance magic circles have been installed there, allowing suspicious individuals to be identified. Because the special class has more freedom than regular students, the insider is likely among them, or at least that is what Hyun-soo believes. He considers the possibility that there truly is a demon insider within the school. However, since the insider is cautious, they will remain quiet for now. What matters instead is the hidden stage inside the dungeon and ensuring that Lee Seo-jun obtains the S-rank item. During the special class activity, Hyun-soo plans to have Choi Se-yoon also. He announces that teams will be formed in pairs and orders everyone to move to the operation area. Sunwoo decides that this time he will follow the original storyline no matter what. Even though he was added unexpectedly, he wonders if any strange variables will appear during the group assignment. Later, under the night sky, he realizes that this outcome is possible after all. The group assignment is confirmed. Group 14 consists of first-year rank 1, Choi Seo-yoon, and second-year rank 72 Kim Sunwoo. Choi thinks about the group assignments and wonders if being in the same group as senior Sunwoo is really that disappointing. She thinks that everyone is desperate to get close to her. Other students glare from behind, cursing Sunwoo for being paired with Choi and complaining that he gets her all to himself. Choi observes that only 2 seniors are different. She understands if Seo-jun is not satisfied with someone like her, but questions why this guy is the one also who is displeased to her in the team. Choi and Sunwoo walk ahead. He suggests moving first, and she agrees. A student breaks down, crying that he wanted a cozy date with a cute junior. Seo-jun look at him and question why he is reacting so strongly, calling it pathetic. Seo-jun is grouped with Yuara. The student says he does not understand because Choi does not pay attention to him. He described her the only daughter of one of the 5 prestigious magic families and noted to have both skill and beauty. Seo-jun mentions that there is also a student from a magic family here. Yuara tells him not to drag her into it. The crying student denies it. He admits that Choi Seo-yoon is different from Yuara. Another student says he will serve him, saying him as big brother. Sunwoo walks ahead on the forest path while Choi follows behind. She thinks that if both sides are dissatisfied, it makes things easier for her. She recalls how Kim Sunwoo was last in the whole school, yet now is getting close to Lee Seo-jun and even joining the special class, making his actions look suspicious. A system message appears stating that Choi Seo-yoon has become curious about Kim Sunwoo, and that he has gained 500 points as a reward. He points ahead and says there seems to be something over there and asks if they should check it out. Choi agrees. She thinks that whatever he is planning will not work on her. Choi smiles and says they should work well together, calling him senior, while thinking that things will not go the way he wants. She appears cheerful and eager, while Sunwoo internally reacts that her expression clearly looks like someone with another scheme. He thinks that at this time, Choi was obsessed with recruiting Lee Seo-jun, because keeping him close would raise her own value. Sunwoo suggests heading over there first. He thinks that if he uses this as bait to lure Lee Seo-jun, things will follow the original storyline. Choi thinks that Sunwoo seems more amazing the more she sees him, and recalls that after the humiliation at the start of the semester, he became strong enough to enter the special class. He cheerfully says that it was just a mistake back then. Choi then addresses him again, saying that forcing his way into the special class might actually be bad for him. She continues that if he draws too much attention, he might end up making enemies instead. Choi was born with everything, including family, talent, and looks, but that behind this is a completely different side. The effort and obsession to meet her family standards are described as what completed Choi's so-called perfection. She is shown being kind to everyone, but she only keeps people close if they raise her value. It is concluded that Choi's hypocrisy was something she had to learn on her own, as a lonely way to survive among the upper class. Sunwoo walks beside Choi and says that he does not really know what she means by enemies. Then Choi adds that he is talking about what happened earlier that day. She continues that no one showed it openly, but aside from Park and Hwan, there are probably others who do not want him in the class. Sunwoo says that he does not care. He then says that in the special class there is something he absolutely wants to achieve, calling it a goal in life. Choi reacts silently, focusing on the words life goal. She recalls a memory when her father states that he has already designed Choi's entire life and tells her to just follow it, saying it is all for her. Choi responds that she understands and says yes, father, repeating the words life goal. Choi looks back at Sunwoo and says she thinks she understands, at least a little, why the teachers favor him. She then asks what he can really achieve just by entering the special class. while Sunwoo hesitates and begins to respond. Sunwoo senses something and says it's dangerous. Suddenly someone attacks with an arrow. Sunwoo asks to the person if he had lost his mind. The attacker, who is none other Park In-hwan, says he is giving Sunwoo a last chance. If he values his life, then step out from the school. Sunwoo asks, what if he did not? While attacking, Park In-hwan says, if not, then die. Whereas scene shifts, Baeki Jin, the counter-terror special task force support mage, says they are just kids. She says it is the team leader's order. Kim asks how it is, and Baeki Jin continues that they are all the same, just kids playing around with training monsters, and that if there is a demon spy, they will try to make contact when released outside. He says that if anyone acts suspiciously or leaves the training area, it should be reported immediately, and Baeki Jin suddenly tells him to wait a second. She says she does not know if they are an insider, but these kids are fighting like their lives depend on it. Whereas Sunwoo thinks that their output speed is high, even if he is trash, and maybe there is a reason he is second year rank 5, and that if this drags on, it could ruin the plan. There is a sound of skill activation, and Choi calls out that if Sunwoo is going to fight, not to do it during training time, then says it is dangerous, and tells Choi to fall back. Choi asks if this will be remembered as a disgrace to the school, and says the same goes for Park Jin-hwan Sunbae, then says first Seo Jun Sunbae, and now even Sunwoo Sunbae, and tells him to put their inferiority complex away. Choi shouts angrily while a boy reacts in shock. Park Jin-hwan raises his fists and yells that this one and that one, asking why everyone keeps protecting that bastard. An explosion of fire erupts as both Sunwoo and Choi is thrown back. Kim asks what happened, and Baeki Jin says that the magic circle disappeared. Baeki Jin asks where Kim is going, and he says that they promised the school that the students would not get hurt. Baeki Jin asks if he is exposing the operation because of a student fight, and Kim says he will go stop them, to keep monitoring the other zones, and to contact him immediately if something happens. He thinks that those students were Park Jin-hwan and Kim Sunwoo, the ones who caused trouble earlier, and that the remaining one is Choi Seo-yoon from one of the 5 great magic families. He hopes nothing happens. Whereas, Park In-hwan shouts that he should be just kept living like a clown like at the start of the semester, and asks who he thinks he is to try to match Kim Seon-woo. A strike lands as Choi is hit by the attack. Choi says that she cannot stop it anymore. Sunwoo says that he told her to fall back because it is dangerous. Choi reacts with a small sound, and she calls out to her senior. A spell barrier forms around her as Sunwoo says he will deal with that guy. He thinks that before regressing, he only stood by and watched Park In-hwan's evil acts, because he was just an extra, and thought he should not affect the storyline. But that bastard was only a throwaway character who only showed up early and did not matter later. The heart of great nature activates as power surges. Blue slashes strike Park In-hwan and knock him back. Park In-hwan curses that bastard and says that even reinforcement type magic, and Sunwoo says that if Park In-hwan had a problem with him, he should have not involved other people in this, and knocks him out. Sunwoo stands over Park In-hwan and tells him to say it, then tells him to give a reason why he should be forgiven. Park In-hwan kneels and says he was wrong, and that he will never pick a fight again, and that he admitted he was wrong, and asks to be forgiven, just once. Sunwoo looks at the glowing mana in his hand, as Choi Seo-yoon calls him senior. She tells Sunwoo that he is wasting mana, and Sunwoo says fine, then let's do this. While Sunwoo also was not planning to hurt him anyway. Sunwoo grips Park In-hwan's head, and tells him to get as far away from here as possible, and that if he catches his eye again, he will kill him. Park In-hwan quickly agrees and says he will get out right now, then hesitates and asks if what happened here will be kept a secret too. Sunwoo gets annoyed, and asks if he is still not gone, and Park In-hwan shouts that they agreed. Sunwoo lets out a nervous breath and says that was nerve-wracking, then says alright then Park In-hwan, let's see you suffer like hell. Park In-hwan runs through the training ground, whereas Baek Jin-hwan shouts senior and reports that student Park In-hwan, who was fighting earlier, is urgently leaving the training ground. Kim says it is confirmed as he activates something. Sunwoo thinks that from now on Park In-hwan will be getting the full attention of the special task force. Kim says understood. Park In-hwan thinks that he barely got away from Kim Sunwoo, as a purple light moves above him. He wonders why that man is chasing him this time. A glowing hand appears near Sunwoo, and Sunwoo thinks that this should be enough to draw attention, and that it probably will not affect the progression much. Sunwoo calls out to Choi and asks what she is doing. While she says he looked hot, she says that to think he defeated senior Park In-hwan, who ranked 5th with a score of 72, they will have to reassess the senior's skill rankings. Sunwoo says that if that guy had really attacked with the intent to kill, there was no way he could have won, and that he just drove him off with momentum. Sunwoo then says he feels a bit sorry, and that Park In-hwan probably wanted to be on the same team as Lee Seo-jun and got caught up in this. Choi says she is just grateful that Sunwoo saved her. A system message appears stating that character Choi Seo-yoon's interest increases by 1. Choi says actually, that at the start of the semester she did not think much of Sunwoo, and that since he had no skills it seemed like he was just trying to get attention. But these days looking at Sunwoo, he seems completely different from the attention-seeking last-place student she knew. Sunwoo asks if that is really so and how she feels these days. Choi says that if she had to put it into words, he is an interesting person. Sunwoo thinks about the talent of a jester. Choi says that now that they have rested, they should move on. Sunwoo asks if they are leaving already and not staying seated a bit longer. Choi says they need to achieve something at least a little, so that Sunwoo will not be looked down on by someone like Park In-hwan. A snake-like training monster appears in front of Choi. The monster attacks as Choi reacts. Sunwoo says that it is a training monster. Sunwoo forms light element magic in his hand. The monster is struck by someone else's attack, and Choi reacts in shock. Sunwoo thinks that he arrived right on time. Choi calls out to senior Lee Seo-jun. Lee Seo-jun asks if everyone is okay and if there are any injuries, then says he tried to help her while going alone, but there do not seem to be any particularly dangerous monsters. He says he guesses he was too tense because it is a danger zone, and Choi says that for a genius like him it should not be too difficult. Choi says that if he just signed a sponsorship contract with her family, that genius talent of his would shine even more. Lee Seo-jun says he will think about it later. Sunwoo thinks that the location and the members are perfect, and as long as the big event where Lee Seo-jun discovers the hidden stage remains, bringing Choi near the dungeon will naturally allow her to join Lee Seo-jun, and that from the very start the path chosen to bring Choi was calculated to overlap most safely with Lee Seo-jun's movement route. All that is left is to guide the way. He points and tells everyone to look over there. Lee Seo-jun asks what that light is, and Choi said that it is coming from inside the cave. Sunwoo says he is really curious about it and asks if they want to go check it out together. They arrive inside the cave named the Special Task Force Training Ground Dungeon, which is currently deactivated. Choi says that is a hidden stage and it occurs very rarely and is a dungeon within the dungeon, that it is much more difficult than a regular dungeon, but if cleared the rewards are far greater. Sunwoo thinks that it is exactly as they said. He thinks that the Tower of Proof takes nice of you, and that the mystic mana fills up in standby. The Tower of Proof's hidden floor was also a type of hidden stage, and that in the dungeon that was remodeled and deactivated, a hidden stage appears. Lee Seo-jun and Choi Seo-yoon join forces to defeat the boss, and this episode is also the turning point where Lee Seo-jun, who obtained an S-rank weapon, gains even more attention, and that after clearing the hidden stage, Korea's genius Lee Seo-jun holds a press conference, and truly important point is elsewhere, that Choi Seo-yoon, who has grown mentally, joins as Lee Seo-jun's companion. Sunwoo thinks that of course he prepared everything thoroughly so that they could all clear it easily, and suggests that they try the challenge themselves. Lee Seo-jun refuses, stating that there are too many variables in a hidden stage, and that they need to report to the special task force first. Sunwoo reacts angrily and tells him to be serious, then says they should wait and think it through again. Choi stands alone on a stone platform, looks ahead, and her eyes widen as she notices something. A voice tells the human child to come closer and to try stepping inside. Choi kneels by the water as ripples spread, and a dark figure appears beneath her. She reaches toward the water, and the surface distorts as something pulls her in. Choi is dragged downward as the space twists. Sunwoo feels something is wrong as he and Lee Seo-jun look toward Choi. A dark presence emerges behind Choi and grabs her. She is identified as a ghost witch of rank B. Lee Seo-jun realizes it is a monster and tells Choi to get a grip as he moves forward with holding sword in his hand. The ghost witch claims Choi as its own while holding her. Sunwoo rushes in as water surges violently around them. Sunwoo realizes the monster attacked first, and that the story's development is already different from the original. Something collapses inward as a swirling portal tightens, and Sunwoo and Lee Seo-jun stare at it in shock. Lee Seo-jun wonders what on earth just happened. He calls out Choi Seo-yoon's name and states that she has been kidnapped by the monster. The portal continues to spin violently. Sunwoo starts moving and tells Lee Seo-jun to follow him, saying they have to save her. Lee Seo-jun hesitates and asks if they are not supposed to wait for the special task force. Sunwoo states that if they wait, Choi will die, and the monster that took her can absorb mana, and once it absorbs all of it, he questions what it will do next. Sunwoo says they have to handle this together right now. He places a hand on Lee Seo-jun's shoulder and says it cannot be helped. Lee Seo-jun grips his weapon, agrees to go, and tells Sunwoo that they should save her immediately. Whereas Park In-hwan is caught by Agent Kim, In-hwan asks what he did wrong. Kim asks who Park In-hwan was conspiring with, and what is their goal, while Park In-hwan insists that he don't know what Kim is talking. Kim asks if that is the case, then why he ran after seeing him. Park In-hwan recalls what happened earlier while fighting with Sunwoo, then says he absolutely can't tell. Kim says Park In-hwan is still a student, so he could have gone easy on him, but now there's no choice. Second year, 5th place at the Magic Officer Academy. Park In-hwan, you are under arrest on suspicion of conspiring with Majin. Then he touches his earpiece and reports to Agent Baekye Jin that the suspect has been caught and tells her to come take them into custody. Then pauses as Baek In-hwan calls out Senior. She urgently reports that an unforeseen situation has just occurred, and that students entered the remodeled dungeon for training. Kim says that the dungeon was deactivated, and basically just a cave, then stops mid-sentence. She reports that circumstances confirm a hidden stage occurred in that dungeon. Kim reacts in shock, whereas, inside a frozen swirling space, Sunwoo moves forward as ice and mana surge around the area, and Lee Seo-jun thinks that the monster must be using the ice mana stolen from Choi Seo-yoon to empower the surroundings. He grips his weapon and states that there is so much to do, then adds that at this rate he will soon be in trouble. He is suddenly pulled into a thick winter coat by Sunwoo behind him. Lee Seo-jun calls Sunwoo's name, and Sunwoo tells him to put it on. saying it will keep him warm and make him feel better. Then thinks that he knew it would be cold in the hidden stage, so he bought plenty of winter gear. The system displays a dimensional pocket, then displays a warm breath coat that increases cold resistance by 20%, and warm gloves that increase cold resistance by 5%. Lee Seojun asks how Sunwoo could afford something that costs hundreds of millions, and Sunwoo answers that it was from stocks and tells him not to ask which ones. The system displays information about a warm breath coat that increases cold resistance by 20%. A blue portal opens and Sunwoo grabs a coat inside as Lee Seojun notices Choi Seyeon. He states with relief that Choi Seyeon looks okay. In the frozen area ahead, she calls out for help and urges them to hurry and save her. They decide to move quickly and say they need to get her out, then ask which way the exit is. Cold wind blows violently as they run forward through the ice-covered space. A surge of icy power erupts, and an attack crashes toward them. Choi, surrounded by ice, appears and tells them that they are quick on the uptake. Behind her, a dark figure looms as Choi stands frozen in place, and the witch comments that this child's frigid, icy mana is truly a delicacy. The system warning reports murderous intent detected, and states that murderous intent is directed at them within a certain range. Sunwoo states that Choi is being controlled by the Ghost Witch, and that to save her, they must defeat the witch first. The Ghost Witch absorbs more icy power, rises into the air, and declares that the two of them are next as a massive surge of icy power rushes forward. Sunwoo observes that the Ghost Witch is an undead monster, and states that she should be weak to Lee Seojun's light attribute, but something feels off. Lee Seojun launches himself forward through the storm as ice shards scatter around him. Sunwoo follows, releasing mana as he moves through the freezing current. He thinks that as long as the Ghost Witch has taken over Choi's body, the situation will not change. The Ghost Witch descends surrounded by violent icy mana, landing heavily as frost spreads outward. He thinks that as the first-year rank 1 and identifies her main specialty as manifestation type, but displaying her subspecialty, she raises a weapon formed of ice and swings downward with force. Lee Seojun blocks the strike mid-air as sparks and ice explode from the clash. Lee Seojun swings forward through swirling ice as Choi faces him, ice forming around her arm. She grips the ice tightly as it spreads and sharpens under her hand. Lee Seojun lunges and strikes toward her, and she blocks as ice bursts outward between them. She lands lightly and rushes forward again, ice shards rising around her. She taunts him, asking if he is holding back because he is fighting a little girl, then says his attacks are all so pathetic as she charges straight at him. Ice pillars surge up as Lee Seojun is forced to move back, watching her rapid movements. Sunwoo observes that her offense and defense transitions are fast, and that the utility unique to the ice attribute is creating synergy with the environment. He jumps upward in surprise, as ice spreads beneath him. Ice slams into the ground and he turns sharply to look ahead. He realizes the path is blocked and hears that he is trapped as Choi advances, ice wrapping around her arm while shards crash down around him. Lee Seojun tells Sunwoo that it is about time he gave instructions and asks if he has a plan. Sunwoo answers that they have to find the witch's real body and explains that if she is threatened, she will come out of Choi as ice explodes around them while they keep fighting. Lee Seojun points out that the entire place is covered in snow and ice and demands to be told her location. Sunwoo admits that he does not know that much. Lee Seojun reacts in confusion. Sunwoo thinks that in the original story, the Ghost Witch was defeated by slashing through the entire place, but says that this time it can be done differently. He says not him but Lee Seojun, as glowing mana orbs appear around Lee Seojun and an amplified mana elixir activates, boosting speed for 10 minutes with exhaustion afterward. Sunwoo addresses Lee Seojun directly as ice swirls around them, whereas Kim concludes that it was just a simple fight and suggests the strange behavior was because of embarrassment over picking a fight and losing. Park In-hwan kneels inside a magic circle with chains binding him, and admits yes, while Kim stands over him. Kim reflects that he should have investigated each student more thoroughly before acting, and asks if the kid going in has nothing to do with him either, and Park In-hwan hurriedly answers that of course. He insists that he really does not know anything. Hyun-soo confronts Kim, and asks if he did not say he would guarantee the student's safety, and Kim admits it is his fault, explaining that the hidden stage was an unforeseen variable. Hyun-soo asks if there is any chance of rescuing the students. Kim thinks briefly, then says they should first try to see if they can open the entrance from the outside, and if that does not work, all they can do is pray that the children clear the hidden stage and come out. Outside, the cave entrance glows as people gather and murmur. The teacher raises her hands and tells the students to please wait outside for a moment. A student asks that being trapped in a hidden stage means once you are trapped in one you cannot get out, and the students stand in silence. Yuara thinks that she still has questions and warns that if anything happens to them, she will not let it go. Whereas inside the cave, Sunwoo calls out to Lee Seojun as mana orbs float around him, and Seojun questions what he means by saying he can do it. Sunwoo answers that he means exactly what he said and tells Lee Seojun that in here he can release his power as much as he wants. The Ghost Witch notices that the mana flow from one of them has changed. She grips her frozen weapon and asks what he is trying to pull. Sunwoo turns sharply and warns Lee Seojun to watch behind him as mana surges around them. A violent burst of energy erupts, and Sunwoo shouts Lee Seojin's name while telling him that he does not need to hide his power, not even from him, and says that it is okay to reveal his true strength. Lee Seojin thinks that the only time he has ever swung his sword with all his might was during the demon attack, and admits that he even held back during the midterms, because if he goes too far ahead, someone could get hurt. Lee Seojin notices that Sunwoo picked up on the subtle difference in mana flow. He calls Sunwoo's name as he leaps into the air surrounded by mana orbs, and says that they should both go all out. The ghost witch reacts in shock, repeating the words, then laughs and tells them to go ahead and try, calling them little human brats. As the ice and mana collide, Lee Seojin responds that since he is putting so much faith in him, he guesses he will have to live up to it. The ghost witch senses the amount of light attribute mana being used and widens her eyes. Sunwoo shouts for Lee Seojin to destroy the entire dungeon. The ghost witch realizes that her main body is in danger. As her form twists and convulses, a massive pillar of light crashes down through the dungeon, shattering the ground and ice. Sunwoo says you have finally came out of the body. The ghost witch screams that she will not let them have their way, as energy gathers violently in her hands. Sunwoo declares that there is no reason to keep her alive, as blue mana wraps around his body and his breath grows heavy. A blinding slash tears through the ghost witch's form, sending her body flying as light and ice explode outward. Sunwoo states that this is Lee Seojin's attack as golden light continues to surge. Multiple magic circles activate outside the dungeon as the structure begins to destabilize. Yoon-soo asks about the progress, while watching the portal covered in dense magical patterns. Kim Yoon-jin reports that only 2% of the entire portal has been analyzed so far, and says not even a mosquito could get through. She adds that this is the best they can do, no matter what kind of support mage they call. Kim looks at his phone and thinks that, since it has come to this, he has to take responsibility himself, even if the team leader reprimands him. On the call, someone asks to speak and Kim says Lee Seojin is in a hidden stage of a B-rank dungeon, and admits it was due to his negligence, but the other side says it is fine and that Lee Seojin will come out on his own if they wait. The others react in confusion and ask what it means that he will come out on his own. A pillar of golden light erupts into the sky as people outside stare in shock. Someone asks what in the world is going on and whether a boss monster appeared. Yuara denies it and says that the light attribute mana is unmistakable. She identifies it as Lee Seojin. Inside the dungeon, Lee Seojin looks at his sword and realizes that this is what happens when the weapon cannot handle his mana. The broken sword falls away as a massive blade descends and embeds itself into the ground. Sunwoo stares at it and trails off, recognizing the sword. The status window appears, identifying it as the Blue Moon Sword, an S-rank sword infused with mysterious moonlight power, detailing its persistent effects, enhancement, regeneration limits, and durability. Sunwoo tells Lee Seojin to draw it, saying it belongs to him, adding that he contributed the most in defeating the Ghost Witch and needed a sword anyway. Lee Seojin asks about Sunwoo's share, and Sunwoo answers that he can take everything else. Laughing, he tells Lee Seojin to go collect the loot while he keeps watch. Lee Seojin grips the hilt of the sword as it responds to his hand. As he looks at its glow, he thinks that it is definitely S-rank, and remarks that it is surprising Sunwoo would give up a weapon like this so easily, then acknowledges that Sunwoo truly is something else. The system window appears, stating that the hidden stage has been cleared in cooperation with a main character, that the involvement rate increases by 0.8%, that Lee Seojin's interest increases by 1% to level 2, and that 2,000 points have been acquired as a reward. Sunwoo kneels beside Choi and states that her mana exhaustion is severe, adding that she is not at a level where she can fight on that scale, and that it is the after effect of having her power forcibly drained while being controlled by the Ghost Witch. Lee Seojin approaches and says that he has gathered all the items that drop nearby, handing them over, and Sunwoo thanks him. Lee Seojin asks what Sunwoo is planning to do, and Sunwoo answers that he is helping her recuperate as blue light gathers in his hand. An item window appears, identifying the Heart of the Ice Spirit, an A-rank elixir that restores mana upon consumption and permanently increases proficiency in ice attribute control. Sunwoo brings his hand down toward Choi as she stirs. Sunwoo asks if Choi is okay, and she weakly calls him senior. She suddenly yells in confusion, asking why both of them is staring at her like that as she flails and stumbles upright. Lee Seojin remarks that she really got her energy back, and Sunwoo adds that she is full of life now. Choi clutches her chest, looks around in shock and asks where on earth she is, and Sunwoo says that it is a bit of a long story and explains that they are in a hidden stage. He adds that Lee Seojin defeated the boss to save her. Choi listens in shock, realizing that a hidden stage was cleared at their age, and that there has never been a record of that before. A swirling blue portal forms as energy gathers and the exit opens. Choi reacts excitedly while moving toward it, and Lee Seojin says he never thought light could look so beautiful. Sunwoo calls out for them to wait before going out. He weakly asks for help walking as mana exhaustion overtakes him. Sunwoo thinks that the moment Choi wakes up, he will collapse, but that he calculated the elixir's duration perfectly this time. He reflects that when this incident is over, the ones who should be in the spotlight are not him, but Lee Seojin and Choi. The three of them move together toward the exit as the portal continues to glow. Sunwoo looks ahead calmly and concludes that it has to be the two of them, the youngest person in history to clear a hidden stage. Lee Seojin once again captured the world's attention following the demon subjugation incident. The Blue Moon sword Lee Seojin obtained was later appraised and revealed to have two top-tier options, even among S-rank items. Newspapers and magazines are shown, with the international mage journal Oracle publishing an article on Lee Seojin's genius-level feats, and the world beginning to take notice of him. After interrogation, Park In-hwan is cleared of suspicion of being an accomplice to the demons. However, during the investigation into his attack on Sunwoo and Choi, his history of bullying other students with his group is revealed. While he is punished severely through disciplinary action, Sunwoo thinks that from now on, that bastard will no longer get in his way, and that although there were some twists and turns, things are ultimately following the original story well. The special class activities carried out by the Special Task Force will be kept secret, and that Choi will use this as a chance to form a bond with Lee Seojin. Sunwoo recalls Choi rushes toward him in distress, asking if he is okay and whether he is hurt anywhere, while Sunwoo reacts quietly as she fusses over him. He thinks that now the next thing he has to do is something else as Choi approaches him and asks what he is up to. Sunwoo reacts in surprise and asks what is going on. Choi smiles and explains that she heard an interesting story from Lee Seojin, so she came to thank Sunwoo. Choi tells him that Lee Seojin said Sunwoo was the one who suggested going to save her and how fiercely he fought in the hidden stage. Sunwoo hurriedly denies it and insists that it is not right, saying Lee Seojin was the one who saved her. He thinks that if Lee Seojin is being given the credit, he should just take it, admitting to himself that he is bad at lying. Sunwoo points emphatically, and adds that Lee Seojin was also the one who defeated the Ghost Witch. Choi looks pleased and hums softly. She meets Sunwoo's gaze in silence for a moment. Choi turns away and says that if he says so, then she will see him at the next special class. Sunwoo watches her leave as a system window appears, stating that Choi's interest in him has increased by 1 to level 2, and that 2,000 points have been acquired as a reward. Sunwoo mutters in frustration that things are getting complicated. He thinks that since it has come to this, he will just have to do a better job during the next incident. Whereas the scene shifts in the school gym as students train with weights and machines, Sunwoo watches calmly, his expression relaxed as he observes the atmosphere. He thinks that because he was standing right next to Lee Seojin when they came out of the hidden stage, he earned a lot of points. He adds that this time he used those points to buy a new trait called Secret of Evolution and Adaptation. The system window appears, describing the trait as one that allows evolution and adaptation when specific conditions are met, granting adaptive traits with reduced effects, and listing its price. While enduring cold environments grants cold resistance and staying in dark places improves night vision. Sunwoo notes that there is no explosive change, but since it raises various basic stats, its utility is very high. He recalls that in the original story, this was a trait second-year student Jeon Min-gi was supposed to obtain, but since it is in the point shop it should not matter. Lee Seojin calls out Sunwoo's name loudly from across the gym. As Lee Seojin asks what brings them here, Sunwoo casually says he is just taking care of his body and that nothing much is going on. Lee Seojin remarks that Sunwoo sounds like an old man. A student named Han responds that maybe so, but tells him to look over there and points. Students comments that Lee Seojin starts his mornings with bench press, that he is doing it with pure physical strength without mana reinforcement, and that he became strong through relentless training and effort. Han shout that the other kids are nowhere close. He yells Lee Seojin's name in alarm, and explains that Yu-Ara is especially insane, and is saying she will show everyone what real firepower looks like. Lee Seojin hesitates and awkwardly agrees while laughing. Sunwoo smiles and says it is good for her, and tells them to let her keep it up. He thinks that Yu-Ara is the type who pushes herself harder once she has a clear goal, and that this incident was a great stimulus for her. Lee Seojin then wonders why teacher Jang Anchol is strangely not there today, noting that he is usually in the fitness room when he does not have class. Han explains that Jang Anchol is patrolling around the school, and adds quietly that this is a secret, adding that a corpse was found near the school, completely drained of blood. Lee Seojin reacts in shock and asks if it was an attack by a demon. Han responds dismissively, saying that even if they come back to attack, their genius will protect them. Han shout that they only trust Lee Seojin, and Lee Seojin tell others to get lost as they crowd around him. Sunwoo looks on seriously and thinks that demons could raid the school again at any moment because there is already an insider inside. He clarifies to himself that more precisely, what infiltrated the school is not the school itself. A senior student stretches after training as people stare, and Sunwoo thinks that it is a human traitor, a demon in human form. The senior addresses Lee Seojin casually, remarking that he sure sweats a lot. She is identified as Park Min-ye, a third-year ranked 4th. She steps closer and hands Lee Seojin a towel. Sunwoo pauses silently, watching her reaction. Han compliments Park Min-ye, saying she looks beautiful today, and she smiles and thanks him. Lee Seojin responds politely, thanking Park Min-ye as well. She tells him that she is always cheering for him and encourages him to keep going. She calls Lee Seojin's name as her eyes narrow slightly. She recalls a memory as night falls on the school grounds, where Park Min-ye sits alone on a bench. A person begs for help as she drinks his blood. The body is thrown aside near the bench, as Park Min-ye watches calmly. Well, it's clear that she is not a third-year, fourth-place Park Min-ye, rather a B-rank demon named Zhang Ye, and the only daughter of the demon Zhang Han. Dark energy surges as the person collapses to the ground in front of someone. She remarks that she did not expect him to come in person and asks if he plans to attack the school again. A man surrounded by dark energy appears and is addressed as Lord Shinhei. He replies that he only came to see how things are going. Chunhei stands over the body lying face down on the ground, stepping near his head, and states that since Zhang Han is dead and she was left alone, he has to take good care of her. She adds that she had planned to play with him a bit longer, but then Chunhei remarks that if word gets out, the tale gets caught, before casually asking how school life has been these days. Park Min-ye listens silently, her expression tightening as she repeats the word school in a low voice. She reflects that with her current identity, she cannot even get close to Jong Hyunsu, and that Lord Haryong told her not to take revenge on Kim Jin's Sunwoo. She continues that every day she has to look at the faces of the kids who reported her father. Park Min-ye asks what he thinks school feels like for someone like her, addressing him as Lord Shinhei. He responds that among those kids, Lee Seojin has been a hot topic lately, and explains that during the school attack, Lee Seojin was already one of the top candidates suspected of being the child of prophecy. As Park Min-ye reacts in shock, he continues that from the moment the demonic barrier disappeared during the school attack, and that man appeared right after, he found it suspicious. He concludes that after her report, he became certain, recalling the overwhelming demonic power that erupted at the time. Chunhei declares that the overwhelming demonic power is the power of demon destruction, and concludes that the child of prophecy is definitely Lee Seojun. Park Min-ye clenches her fist and asks if that means she can kill him with her own hands. Chunhei questions whether she truly thinks she can, reminding her that she has seen his power firsthand. She states that he does not understand, as scenes of students fleeing, a corpse lying on the ground, and her standing among them surface. She explains the pain and thirst of having the fruit of revenge right beside her, while being unable to take a single bite. For her own revenge and for the sake of the clan, she declares that she will definitely kill Lee Seojin. Chunhei responds that this is exactly the mindset he wanted from Zhang Ye, who is known as Park Min-ye in the academy. Suddenly she senses something strange and notes that there is no presence at all. A man remarks that, as Chunhei recommended, she has built strong resolve at such a young age. Chunhei greets the man named Lord Song-jin, saying he never dreamed he would come in person. Song-jin states that if someone is to become his subordinate, he needs to see their face himself. He adds that although her power is still weak, her resolve is strong, and he accepts Zhang Ye as one of his subordinates. He orders her to join the raid on the Child of Prophecy as commanded by the king, and states that refusal is not accepted. He identifies as an S-rank demon affiliated with the 10 Demon Council, known as the King's Right Hand, Seong-jin. Purple demonic energy flows around his extended hand. Scene shifts at location Kendowan, as Bukansen Bokmajion Dungeon. 5th entrance. Demon-type monsters leap down from above, baring their teeth as they rush forward. Hayoung gathers blue energy between her hands, her expression focused. She releases the energy upward in a powerful blast. Ice-blue force surges through the air as she shouts, and several demons are struck and sent flying back. Other demons recoil as the attack lands, while more figures rush in from behind. After the impact, the remaining demons retreat into the distance. Hayoung turns towards Sunwoo and asks how she did. Sunwoo tells her that she has improved a lot and instructs her to focus on mastering this form comfortably for now. Hayoung suggests going somewhere over the weekend and adds that she even found a dungeon just for her training. Sunwoo responds that they got lucky. He continues that saying they got lucky is actually true. He explains that, in his previous life as a C-rank mage, he discovered this dungeon completely by chance. He adds that it is a place that never appeared in the original story, and that only he knew about it. Sunwoo walks forward, stepping past fallen demon remains. He thinks that this area is swarming with demon-type monsters, and that it is the perfect environment to grow Hayoung's willpower. Sunwoo crouches slightly, and asks what she was thinking when she manifested that power just now. Hayoung recalls that it felt similar to when she fought Ara. She pauses and explains that at the time, she thought about wanting to protect the people beside her. Sunwoo thinks that the most important thing when handling the power of destruction is willpower, manifested through a special purpose and unwavering determination. The focal point of Yoon Ha-young's willpower is revealed. Hayoung continues that just now she also thought that she wanted to work hard like Sunwoo, and enter the special class as well. She clenches her fists excitedly. Sunwoo thinks that any road works as long as it leads to Seoul. He tells her that if they keep training together every weekend like this, she will definitely make it into the special class and asks if she can do it. She thinks that the two of them go to a dungeon every weekend, and this really feels like a date. She blushes slightly and agrees. Sunwoo thinks that after the midterm second place is secured, At this growth rate, Yoon Ha-young should join around the first semester of her third year just like in the original. System message appears stating that evolution and adaptation is activated and that Sunwoo's eyes adapt to the darkness. Sunwoo narrows his eyes slightly. He then thinks that now the only thing left is the problem of Jang Han's daughter, Jang Ye, currently known as Park Min-ye in the academy. He thinks that in the original story, Jang Ye approached Lee Seojin for revenge against her father, and she continuously plotted schemes as a villain. Sunwoo thinks that the ones who killed her father were Kim Jinwoo and Jung Hyun-soo. He questions why she approached Lee Seojin first. Something feels off. He focuses and thinks that before she can cause any more damage, he needs to make the first move. Park Min-ye steps forward and asks if he is Sunwoo. She thinks if Sunwoo is the one who was recently rescued by Lee Seojun during the hidden stage. She continues, saying she heard that he had something to say to her. Behind her back, purple demonic energy gathers in her hand. Sunwoo wonders if he has already been discovered. Sunwoo answers that it is something really important, and thinks that dealing with this obstacle requires this approach. She reacts with surprise. He says that this might be sudden, but he will say it anyway. He takes out a book and holds it forward toward Park Min-ye. He declares that he wants to keep in touch with her personally. Our bro is literally now using confession attack. Sunwoo lowers his gaze slightly and thinks that he first needs to create a situation where it will be just the two of them. A system message appears stating that the character Jang Ye, currently known as Park Min-ye in the academy, feels repulsed by him, that he has gained 500 points as a reward, that the first rejection achievement has been unlocked, and that he has gained an additional 1,000 points as a reward. Sunwoo reacts with a brief pause. Park Min-ye's expression darkens as she looks down at him. Sunwoo looks up and thinks that he got dumped. Park Min-ye apologizes to Sunwoo and explains that he is not her type, and that a personal relationship would be too much for her. He adds that it would be best if they stayed on good terms as senior and junior, the two separate in the corridor, leaving distance between them. Park Min-ye thinks that she would never date a mere human and considers killing him. Sunwoo touches his face and reflects that although he is human, his appearance should not be enough to make someone feel repulsed. A system message appears stating that the character Shin Youngjun pities him, and that he has gained 500 points as a reward. Sunwoo realizes that what he was actually aiming for was Shin Youngjun. Shin Youngjun watches from a distance, covering his mouth in shock. He approaches and pats Sunwoo on the shoulder, telling him to hang in there. He comments that someone like Park Min-ye is worth confessing to even if rejection is possible, despite her dislike of being the center of attention. Sunwoo thinks that because she is a demon. Sunwoo calls out Shin, and mentions the classical magic theory assignment, asking if he has not even started it yet. Shin reacts in shock and asks how Sunwoo knew. He then explains that he is fine with anything physical, but that theory never sticks in his head no matter what. He sighs heavily and scratches the back of his head. Sunwoo asks if Shin wants to use his assignment as a reference and adds that he is ranked first in theory. Shin suddenly brightens and asks if that is really okay. Then Sunwoo states that there is one condition. Sunwoo gestures toward himself and asks whether Shin uses the school community board often. The scene shifts to the cafeteria, where students murmur while looking in Sunwoo's direction. Someone recognizes him as the person from the school board post from yesterday. Another student remarks that since he could not get attention by being dead last in class, he must be resorting to this now. A system message appears stating that 247 people are interested in him, and that he has gained 1,500 points as a reward. Sunwoo folds his hands in front of his face and thinks that everything is going just as planned. A post is shown on the community board warning others not to touch senior Park Min-ye and declaring that she has been claimed by Sunwoo. Another view shows the same post repeated across the board. Hyun-soo, an instructor, looks at the post on a phone and laugh, commenting on how kids confess these days. At a desk, Park Min-ye pauses while holding her hand near her chest, whereas Ha-young clicks her tongue and asks if Sunwoo is into older girls. She states that, logically, there is no way he posted it himself. She concludes that someone must be playing a malicious prank. Ha-young asks if she thinks so too and wonders if Sunwoo will be okay. Sunwoo sits at the table, sweat visible at his temple. He thinks that he was not the one who did it this time. He looks ahead and thinks that someone else did it for him. Shin mutters that he did his best to post on the board as requested, but questions whether it backfired. Sunwoo immediately agrees that it completely backfired. He reflects that the result was not what he wanted, but thanks to it, his message was delivered loudly and clearly. He thinks that involving Shin caused the information to spread through the entire school instantly. He thanks Shin for the help. Shin responds that he will support him until the very end. Later, Sunwoo sits alone at the table as others watch from a distance. He notices someone approaching. He questions who would confess like that in the first place, then thinks that he simply needed a situation like this. Sunwoo thinks that although he avoided being dead last in class, people still see him as an attention seeker. He imagines her standing above him while others watch. He thinks that as long as she is associated with someone like him, it will be harder for Jang Ye, or say Park Min-ye, to hunt people, or harm Lee Seojin freely. Sunwoo smiles, and thinks that since he has no reputation left to lose, this does not hurt him at all. He smiles wider, confident. Several students react loudly, saying he winked and calling it gross, while Sunwoo sits alone with his meal and thinks that the reactions are a bit much. 3 girls walk away together, saying that if someone is pretty and nice, only weird people cling to them, and that there is no need to deal with him. Park Manya thinks that she needs to kill Lee Seojin, but realizes that because of Kim Sunwoo, all eyes are on them, and decides that for now she has no choice but to back off. Sunwoo cheerfully waves and says goodbye to his senior. As he looks down, he thinks that if it were up to him, he would ambush and finish Lee Seojin, but instead places his hand on a book and thinks that for Lee Seojin, a much more significant event is about to occur. At the American Museum of Antiquities, an announcement says it is closing time and asks visitors to make sure they have all their belongings. Staff members begin their night patrol and respond that they understand. A man approaches a sealed display as it opens, revealing an object labeled the Soul Vessel, described as a sacred relic with the power to seal souls. 13 years ago, the world was suffering under the threat of Jin, the worst multinational terrorist group in history, but Kim Jin-cheol, chairman of the Mage Association, repelled them after a fierce battle and killed their leader, Jin Cheon-woo. Among the spoils was the Soul Vessel, which was later presented as a gift to the American Museum of Antiquities. Inside the museum, the man notes that the Soul Vessel has no issues, and calls it a sacred relic, and the most important exhibit in the museum. A woman appears behind him and says he must have missed the announcement and points out the exit, while remarking that it is rare to see a sacred relic imbued with such mystery from this close. She adds that it is too beautiful to be locked away like this, and says that is why it must be kept by those who are qualified, explaining that 13 years ago, one person was qualified to hold all its mysteries until Kim Jin-cheol reached him, and the man says that the association stepped in to prevent it from being used by terrorists, insisting that such power must be used for the public good. The woman says he is wrong and states that great power should be used for a greater purpose. The woman states that great power should be used for a greater purpose and adds that while the Mage Association claims responsibility, it is only busy monopolizing it. The man becomes flustered and shouts for the guards, ordering them to kick the potential criminal out immediately. Before the guards can act, someone knocks a man down hard. She coldly says his name, Scar, and asks if he is already bored. A large man named as Scar crashes down and says that everyone so far has been weak, demanding someone stronger. The man reacts in shock, saying they were all A-rank mages and that the security system did not even trigger until it came to this. A girl in red rushes forward, attacking with swift movements, while the man looks on in disbelief as the fight escalates. She complains that they agreed to only threaten him and steal the item, asking if the plan has changed and telling him to leave the rest to her. The man stares at the display case in confusion, wondering when she moved. He loses his footing and falls back. He struggles to rise and angrily demands to know who they are. A voice responds that even though their god was taken from them, his will could not be broken. The woman looks down coldly. She dismisses them as washed-up terrorists and declares they will pay for insulting her god. The man shouts the name John in panic. A violent surge erupts. Windows shatter outward as energy tears through the building and spills into the night sky. News spreads rapidly. Phones light up as reports identify the attack at the American Museum of Antiquities as the work of John, a cult group thought to have vanished. Though records were damaged, the assault is presumed to have been led by an executive named Bert. Public pressure mounts for the Mage Association to respond. Yuara freezes while reading the news on her phone, her face draining of color. Hayoung asks if she is all right. Yuara says it is nothing, only nausea, and excuses herself from the table. Sunwoo's gaze hardens as he thinks that it will begin soon. He recognizes what this means. The first battle is about to begin. Yuara clenches her fists and focuses, as Sunwoo thinks that this involves the main villain group, John, whereas someone sees a news article fills the screen, reporting that John has resumed activity and calling it the return of a nightmare from 13 years ago. A man named John Jin asks if this is satisfactory. The blonde woman named as John Burt lounging on a sofa checks her phone and replies that it is. She adds that the picture turned out well. Jin comments that he barely had time to cover his face and questions why they went through the trouble of disabling the security system if this was all they planned to do. The woman in red named as June Natasha, lying across the sofa, says that a clueless curator insulted him, so she let the man atone with his life. A muscular man named as Scar tightens his fist and complains that it ended far too quietly, saying that in the old days, they would have leveled the entire block before leaving. Jin tells Scar that times have changed and that the move was too rash. Natasha snaps back, asking if he does not know that the Special Task Force and the Blade of Dawn are still hunting them. Scar scoffs, saying he will take them on any time and tells her to stop calling him an idiot. Bert suggests finding somewhere quiet for a while. She admits that, as Jin said, she was a bit too hasty this time, and proposes heading to Korea for a break. Scar reacts with interest, saying Korea is a place full of strong people to fight, and mentions visiting the Soul Magic Arena for old times' sake. Silence follows. Jin says that sounds fine but adds that he wants to avoid running into Kim Jin-cheol. Bert replies that the darkest place is under the lantern and that no one would expect them to walk straight into their backyard. She adds that she has something to check there anyway. Jin asks if she is going to see him, and reminds her that she knows what that child means to them. Natasha comments that the child has been getting caught up in all kinds of incidents lately, and questions what Baek Yoon-seong is doing with his surveillance. Scar declares that crisis is what builds a man. Bert concludes that it is settled, and orders Jin to prepare fake IDs and passports, then to contact Baekon-sung and tell him they are coming soon. A nighttime exterior of restaurant Kantia is shown. Sunwoo walks inside and get up off Kim Jinwoo. He thinks it has been a while since he came out as Kim Jinwoo. He thinks it should be safe to start moving now. He thinks that after laying low for a long time, Ha Ryung's interest should have faded. Sunwoo is guided down a hallway. He thinks that before running into John he needs to raise his specs. Inside a private room, Han Seo-yeon sits at a table. She reacts when Sunwoo arrives and says he is here. They face each other across the table. Sunwoo, currently in Kim Jinwoo's getup, says she could have sent someone to pick the item up. She replies that it has been a while and she wanted to see him in person. Han Seo-yeon presents a bag and says it contains the requested items. She specifies sacred herb potions and high durability combat boots. Sunwoo opens the bag and examines the contents. A system display shows the combat boots specifications and effects. Sunwoo reacts, noting the dual options, and that the price must be much higher than items of the same rank. Han Seo-yeon says she could not choose something ordinary since it is a gift from her. Food is served on the table. Sunwoo thinks Kantia is the restaurant where Lee Seo-jun almost fainted after taking just one bite in the original story. It is said that normal people struggle just to get a reservation. Sunwoo wonders if it really lives up to the hype and decides to see for himself. He takes his first bite. As the golden pastry on the outside shatters, the subtle mushroom aroma of the duxelle sauce flows out along with the juices. The Hanwoo roast beef inside reacts with the red wine sauce, creating an explosion of flavor. Sunwoo reacts, saying it is delicious. Han Seo-yeon watches his reaction and says that seeing such a response makes treating him worthwhile. Sunwoo wipes his mouth and says he cannot accept such generous treatment without giving something back. Han Seo-yeon tells him not to worry about the money and says they are not the kind of relationship that frets over things like that. Sunwoo looks at her and asks what if it is something better than money. He says she looked a bit troubled earlier and asks if it is because of the terror threat. She too recalls an article that says that 2 billion won must be deposited within 3 days, and if the deadline is missed, the Hansung Pharmaceuticals building will be blown up. Han Seo-yeon reacts and says that is top secret information that has not even been leaked to the press, then asks how he knew. Sunwoo replies that he has his ways. She acknowledges that Sunwoo is right, and says that ever since the John news broke, copycat crimes have been surging worldwide. She adds that she was already busy dealing with a power struggle against her brother. Sunwoo thinks that fortunately, the person blackmailing Han Seo-yeon has absolutely no connection to John. The real culprit is not John but Jo Seong-hun, an alchemist active in the underworld. He is just a petty criminal, trying to squeeze Hansung Pharmaceuticals now that they are on the rise. Sunwoo says to check the financial situation of the security staff and explains that they will find someone who mixed up with a shady alchemist. He recalls that Jo Seong-hun is only a character briefly introduced in the original to trigger an event, so this level of intervention should be fine. Later, Sunwoo and Han Seo-yeon stand together outside at night. She thinks that Sunwoo knows high-level information even she did not know, yet the source remains a complete mystery. She addresses him as Mr. Kim Jinwoo, then says she does not know who he is working for, but asks if he would consider coming to work under her. She adds that with someone like him by her side, she does not think she would ever lose to her brother. She offers an annual salary in the hundreds of millions and treatment beyond his expectations. Sunwoo smiles lightly and says he is not doing this for special treatment, but that his desire to help her, Ms. Han Seo-yeon, is sincere. She says that it would not be fun if he were won over too easily. She suggests that they have another meal together later. She raises one finger and says that she will come back with even better terms. Sunwoo replies that he is looking forward to it. Han Seo-yeon leaves the building. Sunwoo stands alone on the rooftop as night spreads over the city. He thinks that Han Seo-yeon's offer was tempting, but accepting it would mean drifting away from Lee Seo-jun. The system screen appears in front of Sunwoo. Information about multifunctional combat boots is displayed, including their category, description, and passive effects. Another panel shows the active effect, stating that by infusing mana into the boots, the user can walk in the air for 5 seconds with a 2-minute cooldown. Sunwoo notes that the item now has triple options and says he is glad it was a useful drop from the hidden stage. Blue light gathers around his feet as he steps forward into the air. Sunwoo runs across the night sky, moving between buildings. He lands and steadies himself, smiling slightly as he says that he should get some practice in. Scene shifts at magic law class. The professor lectures at the front while students sit at their desks. Shin rests his head on his desk, eyes closed, while the lecture continues. The professor announces that there will be a paired research project on theory due next week. The classroom reacts loudly. Several students protest. Shin lifts his head in shock. He asks the professor to extend the deadline. The professor refuses and orders everyone to return to their seats. Sunwoo listens silently, his expression turning serious. He thinks about finishing the assignment quickly and getting some rest. Sunwoo looks around the classroom considering who would be a suitable partner. Yuara approaches Sunwoo's desk and declares that Sunwoo will be paired with her. Shin shouts that Sunwoo will be paired with Yuara. Yuara stands confidently, looking down at Sunwoo. She questions whether he has a problem with it. Sunwoo stiffens, startled by the sudden attention. He wonders why she is talking to him all of a sudden. After a while, Yuara walks ahead and tells Sunwoo to find her at the training grounds after school. Sunwoo watches her leave. He thinks that this works out, since he needed to check on Yuara anyway. He then doubts that thought. Later, the two stand beneath an archway. Sunwoo asks what she is talking about and says he is not hiding anything. Yuara tells him it is useless to play dumb. She states that she knows his true identity. Sunwoo freezes in shock. He wonders what is happening. Yuara tells Sunwoo that there is no point in pretending to be ignorant, and that she knows his true identity. Sunwoo reacts with surprise and questions what identity she is talking about. Sunwoo thinks about multiple options related to his identity, including what happened on the hidden stage, the truth behind the demon attack incident, a possessed person, a regression, Kim Jinwoo, and the event that will happen next. Sunwoo is confused about which one she means. Yuara explains that since the first day of school, Sunwoo has talked about personal matters, as if he already knew them, and that he mentioned things he could not have known without investigating, which made her feel something was off. She steps closer to Sunwoo and tells him that he is just like her. Yuara says that Sunwoo is a victim who was caught up in John's terror attacks. 13 years ago, John hunted down prestigious, mage families and minority tribes in search of the power of mystery. Yuara's family, one of the 5 great magic families, was also targeted, and that the hands of John and their family treasures were plundered. Yuara decided to become strong in order to take revenge on John directly, and to become strong enough to kill them. So she has pushed herself relentlessly for 13 years. Sunwoo looks shaken and questions why she thinks he is a victim of John. Sunwoo asks Yuara what made her think that. Yuara says she had a hunch during midterms, and that the incident the day before confirmed it. She says that when everyone else was shocked by the news, Sunwoo was the only one who remained calm, as if he had been waiting for it to happen. She adds that she knows that feeling. She says that at first a person is startled, but on the other hand feels relieved. She says that finally, the chance to take revenge on them personally has arrived. Sunwoo tells Yuara not to do anything rash, and explains that John is a terrorist group composed entirely of S-rank mages. He says that at their current level, they cannot possibly stand against them. Yuara interrupts and tells him not to say we, and says that there are tens of thousands of victims of John across the world. She says that Sunwoo also must have lost something precious to them, but that there is no one who can understand the pain she has endured for the past 13 years. Sunwoo calls Yuara's name and reaches out to her. She pulls her arm away from Sunwoo. Sunwoo thinks that things have become complicated, while Yuara remains silent. The system informs that the character Yuara feels pity for Sunwoo. The system reports that Sunwoo has gained 1,000 points as a reward. Yuara looks at his arm and says that she can tell the difference between a wound made by a blade and any other type of wound. She apologizes for bringing up painful memories. She says that it is not much of an apology, but tells him to do the assignment for them, and says they will meet again tomorrow. Sunwoo stands in place in silence as she walks away. Sunwoo calls out for her to forget the assignment and instead let him help her with her revenge. Sunwoo asks if she remembers the first day of school, and says honestly that he thinks she is better than the other two. He says that when he said that before, he was not just being nice, and that if it is him, he can definitely help her become stronger than she is now. He mentions Yoon Hayoung. She remains silent. Yuara throws a medicine at him and tells him to make sure to take care of the wound so it does not scar. Yuara says that if she does not finish this with her own hands, it will be meaningless. She walks away, and Sunwoo remains silent. She thinks about Kim Sunwoo, and says that there are many cases where emotional wounds leave physical traces on the body. She thinks that the reason he acted like that on the first day of school, and displayed his school skills, was probably not unrelated to the scar on Kim Sunwoo's arm, because he is that kind of person. She thinks that she should not involve him in her revenge even more. She recalls a memory when someone demands to know what she is talking about and calls her sister. As Yuara clenches her fist, Yuara says that she wants to hunt them down after she graduates, and asks whether it is the Special Task Force or the Blade of Dawn, and why her sister is so against it. Her sister calls Yuara's name and grabs her arm. Her sister says that she wants her only remaining family to live a happy life, whereas Yuara thinks that she will personally put an end to John to ensure that no more victims like her are created. Sunwoo sits alone in his room. He thinks that getting socially distant Yuara to open up about her personal story is a good outcome. The system informs that the character Yuara feels a sense of kinship with Sunwoo, and that he has gained 1,500 points as a reward. Sunwoo wonders what he should do about this misunderstanding. He considers using the dagger he got from the hidden stage to gain an adaptive trait. The system displays the information for Paralysis Dagger, stating that it is a dagger coated with paralysis poison, that stabbing an opponent can paralyze them depending on the target's poison resistance, that its durability is B, and that its attack power is C. Sunwoo wonders how he could possibly tell her in that situation that he stabbed himself. The system displays the information for paralysis poison resistance, stating that paralysis poison resistance increases by 50%, and paralysis poison recovery speed increases by 70%.
Sunwoo says that at this point training is the only answer. Sunwoo refines his mana every night,
and maps out how to assist the upcoming story developments. He thinks that John is an enemy he must fight eventually, and that helping Yu-Ara with her revenge is ultimately helping Lee Seojun. The system reports that nature's protection rank has increased to 3%, that additional mana gained during refinement is 160 to 170%, that nature's rest mana recovery speed is 60 to 65%, and that nature's heart cooldown has decreased from 24 hours to 23 hours. Sunwoo says that he guesses he will have to show them something during the next incident at Yeongwol, Gangwon Province. Sunwoo thinks this is the Mercenary Experience Program, one of the elective activities for all students. The students form groups to receive missions from mercenary groups across the country and assist them for 3 days. As in the original story, the group's task is assisting the escort mission for the large mercenary group, Black Flame in Gangwon Province, and a very important person specifically requested Lee Seojun and brought them all the way there. Sunwoo thinks that Jang Ye is part of the group. Jang Ye, who is known as Park Min-ye in Academy, looks annoyed and complains again about what is happening. Sunwoo thinks that she probably will not attack Lee Seojun in the middle of all the veteran mercenaries and that she did not cause an incident at this point in the original. Sunwoo decides to keep a close eye on her so that she does not get near Lee Seojun. He offers Park Min-ye something to drink. She declines the offer and thanks him for it. Sunwoo offers her a towel to wipe her sweat and tells her to give it to the juniors following them. Sunwoo laughs lightly, as Park Min-ye thinks how annoying he is AMD that she will kill Kim Sunwoo one day for sure. Lee Seojun laughs and says that they have never seen Sunwoo so passionate before. Yu-Ara pants from exhaustion and tells him not to talk to her. She thinks that Sunwoo is a manifestation type, and wonders why he has such good stamina. Shin thinks that perhaps his efforts to bring those two together have finally borne fruit. Yu-Ara immediately denies it, and Lee Seojun says he does not think that is the case either. Jong Ha-jun, an A-rank mage and the leader of the Black Flame mercenary team, calls for everyone's attention. Jong Ha-jun announces that they have arrived at the mission location. A guard states that allies are confirmed and entry is permitted. Lee Seojun remarks that there is a mansion like this in the middle of the mountains. Ha-jun says that this is where they will perform their mission, and notes that even a famous genius has not seen a place like this before. Ha-jun explains that the difficulty is D rank, and that the client is a famous artist. He says that several items from her collection have recently been stolen from the mansion. So starting today, they will assist the Black Flame mercenaries for 3 days and guard the mansion from petty thieves. Ha-jun asks whether they are listening. Sunwoo comments on the paintings, saying that while using intense colors, they harmonize so the background does not overshadow the subject, and that this reflects the artist's unique worldview. Yu-Ara asks Sunwoo how he knows so much about that. Sunwoo says that he just happens to know a lot of things and thinks that of course he has to know. A woman appears and says that she is simply grateful that they view the paintings so favorably. She introduces herself as Charlotte. Sunwoo thinks she is the client of this mission, who specifically requested Lee Seojun. Charlotte says that the students of the Magic Academy will be under her care for the next 3 days. Charlotte calls out Lee Seojun by name, whereas Sunwoo thinks that she is the villain of this current incident named as Bert. Scene shifts inside a hotel. Jin asks if he is claiming he did nothing wrong, while Scar remarks that meat is meant to be torn off the bone as he bites into it. John Baek-eun-sung insists that he had been truly faithful to his job. He explains that as the surveillance officer, he never took his eyes off Lee Seojun. In the past, crowds are shown cheering for Lee Seojun and holding signs calling him theirs and their king. He continues that he investigated Lee Seojun's grades, friendships, and health status, and adds that he did not miss a single regular report. Natasha then questions why Lee Seojun ended up caught in so many incidents. Scar responds that she has to watch him fight to understand how he is growing, and tells the others to stop talking and just eat. She snaps that the one saying is the only one eating everything. John Baek-eun-sung states that if Lee Seojun had been in real danger, he would have stepped in. Jin says that Baek-eun-sung is not that oblivious. Around the table, they continue eating. Natasha asks if he even knows how to use a fork, and Scar shouts that he washed his hands. Jin tells the two of them to shut up and eat as Scar keeps chewing and wonders how he can eat without using his mouth. Later, Natasha confirms that it was 10 p.m. tonight and asks if they really have to go that far just to see Lee Seojun. Jin says that if they are curious about his skills, they should just go and clash with him directly, and asks why they have to disguise themselves as petty thieves and look pathetic. Natasha answers that Bert told them to. John Baek-eun-sung asks why, then answers that it sounds fun, and asks how the fit looks. Jin then calls to Scar. He explains that if they do not want to attract Kim Jin-cheol's attention, they have to hide their identities first. He mentions that Bert's orders were to go easy on them and not kill anyone, and that they still have to move quietly for now. Scar's hand tightens around black fabric as he admits that it is not that, but that he is just not confident that he can go easy on them. The scene shifts to the formal dining room where Charlotte tells the guests not to feel burdened and to enjoy the meal, adding that they might have a tough night ahead. At the table, Park Min-ae thanks the host for the food, and Lee Seojun remarks that to think they would even be treated to a meal. Shin says he came for mercenary work but is leaving healed. Sunwoo thinks that the food is not as good as Kantia where he ate with Han Sion. Inwardly he thinks that this place is enemy territory, but it is safe. John's goal in infiltrating the mansion disguised as thieves in a few hours is not terrorism, but to test the special existence Lee Seo-jin. His thought follows that if someone like Jung Ye revealed her true colors, that she is not Park Min-ae but a demon, then she would be eliminated immediately. Park Min-ae murmurs why he keeps looking at her with that weird smile. He too thinks that it is so he can relax. Then Bert, who is now disguised as Charlotte, mentions that the youngest A-rank mage cleared the hidden stage, and that she saw the news too. She adds that she heard that Lee Seo-jin saved that honest-looking friend sitting over there. Lee Seo-jin hesitates and confirms that it is right. Sunwoo hesitates and repeats the words honest-looking with doubt. Charlotte asks if the female student who was active with him did not come along. Lee Seo-jin answers that Choi So-yeon said she had family matters to attend to. One remarks that his goal was to see a celebrity rather than carry out the request itself. Charlotte tells him that his family must be happy that he has such talent. Lee Seo-jin responds that he wishes that were true. After a pause, he adds that he does not have a family. He says that it is not that he lost someone, but that he does not even know what kind of people they were. He continues that if his family is out there somewhere, he hopes they will be proud of him. Charlotte admits she was so glad to meet him that she asked a rude question, but says she understands that feeling. The room falls quiet. Charlotte then says that she grew up as an orphan too, and that it is a lonely and desolate feeling. She reaches out and places her hand over his. She looks at him and says that family is not something one is born with, but something one makes, and suggests that they do their best together. Lee Seo-jin smiles and thanks her. After the meal, he thanks them for the food. As they walk away, one says that what Miss Charlotte said was touching. Another laughs. Sunwoo adds that it was edible. Later, they gather near the fountain. Lee Seo-jin reminds the group that just as they were briefed for the mercenary activity during the day, they should each patrol the interior according to the schedule. The others respond that they understand. Park Min-ae calls out to Junior Seo-jin and asks if he has a moment. Before he can answer, Sunwoo says that he came up with a reinforced patrol route and tells Lee Seo-jin to follow. Lee Seo-jin responds that it is fine and agrees. As Lee Seo-jin is led away, Min-ae mutters Kim Sunwoo's name. Shin notices and reacts in surprise. He observed that Senior Min-ae's expression turns vicious when Lee Seo-jin is taken away, and wonders if this could be a love triangle. Yu-ara is asked if she saw that too and what they should do. Lee Seo-jin's earlier words repeat in thought, that if his family is out there somewhere, he hopes they will be proud of him. Yu-ara narrows her eyes. As Yu-ara leaves, Shin runs after her and shouts that she cannot just leave. Outside at night, Sunwoo and Lee Seo-jin walk along the side of the mansion. Sunwoo explains that if they start from the corner of the mansion, they can plan the movement path more efficiently. Sunwoo thinks he should guide Lee Seo-jin in a direction where people will not get swept up even if an incident occurs, then asks if there is anything he does not understand. Lee Seo-jin replies that there is something about Sunwoo. Sunwoo turns and asks what he means. Lee Seo-jin states that for someone who supposedly lacks mana, he fired off magic in the hidden stage, as if his mana were infinite. He describes it as a style of bombarding with magic from the front, while aiming for the opponent's vital points, and says he knows only one person who fights like that. From appearance to fighting style, he says, Sunwoo is too similar to the mage Kim Jinwoo. Sunwoo becomes flustered and thinks that first Yu-ara and now Lee Seo-jin are doing this to him, then asks if he thinks he is Kim Jinwoo. Lee Seo-jin quickly denies it himself. Sunwoo answers that mage Kim Jinwoo is a hero who cleared the hidden floor of the tower and defeated a demon all by himself, and adds that he is probably several times stronger than him. Lee Seo-jin responds with interest. He continues that what he is curious about is who he learned that style from, and reminds him that he told him not to hide his power, yet he hides his own. Sunwoo hesitates, thinking that he needs an excuse. Yu-ara approaches them and states that it is not that he is hiding his power, but that he has no choice. Lee Seo-jin asks what brings her there. She answers that she is taking a walk because she has things to think about and asks if that is not allowed. Lee Seo-jin says it is not that it is not allowed, but asks what she means by saying Sunwoo has no choice. Yu-ara explains that there are cases where magic release becomes unstable due to psychological factors, and the deviation between mana capacity and output becomes large. In other words, she says the current Sunwoo is not hiding his skills, but is in rehabilitation to regain his original abilities. They both react in shock, as Sunwoo inwardly questions if that is it. The system displays that the character Lee Seo-jin admires him, and that he has gained 500 points as a reward. Lee Seo-jin then brings up Sunwoo again, and mentions the medicine he took in the hidden stage. Sunwoo admits that they found out. He says he kept it a secret from everyone because he did not want to be pitied. Lee Seo-jin apologizes and promises to keep it an absolute secret from everyone else. Sunwoo says he is going inside now. He tells Lee Seo-jin to start patrolling from the corner of the mansion as mentioned earlier. Sunwoo runs off, telling them to work well. Lee Seo-jin tells him to rest up. Sunwoo walks along the mansion exterior at night and thinks that he got away with it thanks to Yu-ara's misunderstanding. He continues inside and reflects that Bert managed to scrape together quite a collection of precious items. He explains that this mansion is one of the hideouts of the villain John, located all over the world. As Sunwoo walks down a long hallway filled with framed paintings and displayed objects, he reflects that some pieces were painted by Bert herself under the guise of Charlotte, but a significant number were looted to fund John's activities. However, the true treasure of this mansion is not art or anything like that, but the items John has stored separately in the secret room. Sunwoo stops in front of a tall grandfather clock and looks at it closely. Multiple magic effects are shown around the clock, labeled concealment, illusion, confinement, disturbance, seal, and alarm. The system displays that it is using the search function. The system then reveals a lesser mana concealment elixir, then displays its details. Lesser mana concealment elixir grade C, category item, single-use consumable. Upon consumption, it conceals mana flow of C rank or lower. Duration 10 minutes. Price 5,000,000. The elixir appears in Sunwoo's hand. He thinks that everyone is so focused on their own business that no one knows a thief has really entered the mansion. While drinking the elixir, he thinks he just needs to finish the job before the third party intrudes shortly and causes a scene. Blue energy swirls around him as he stands before the clock. The system displays that due to the effect of the lesser mana concealment elixir, mana of C rank or lower is concealed for 10 minutes. Sunwoo smirks and calls them villainous bastards. The system announces that it is activating the unique trait Outsider's Benefit. Blue energy gathers around his hands as he says he will see them get robbed blind by an honest-looking guy. He observes that the structure is set so that an alarm will sound if he deactivates it completely, and notes that one of John's arrays has been installed. He decides that if he can modify the formula enough to let one person through, it will work. Magic circles spread out in layers around him as he adjusts the formation. He leaps forward. His foot lands lightly on the floor. He looks ahead and realizes this is John's secret room. He concludes that the same kind of security magic is applied to the display cases as well. Sunwoo looks around and says now then. He stretches out his hands and asks if he should clear it out. Meanwhile, Black Flame Mercenaries Team 6 captain, an A-rank mage named as Jong Ha-jun, remarks that he heard the place gets robbed periodically, but nothing seems to be happening. A guard asks the captain whether something feels off. Jong Ha-jun asks what it is. The subordinate points out that they are in Gangwon, a monster field where high-level monsters run wild even if someone strays slightly from the path. He questions whether, no matter how expensive the artworks are, a thief would really target a place like this. Jong Ha-jun asks why he is so curious and tells him they only need to stand guard and get paid. He adds that at most, they are probably staging a robbery to claim insurance money, and instead of guessing the client's motives, they should focus on how to recruit Lee Seo-jun. The subordinate answers, "Yes, sir." Dark energy rises as Song-jin appears at Jong Ha-jun's shoulder and tells him he is working hard. In an instant, Song-jin moves. Jong Ha-jun and the other guard are struck down, blood scattering as they collapse to the ground. Song-jin's eyes glow faintly. From a distance, Jong Yi, currently known as Park Min-ae in the academy, calls out desperately. She states that thanks to him, she was able to follow him well. She asks Lord Song-jin to grant her the chance to end Lee Seo-jun's life. Song-jin refuses, stating he will not allow it until they confirm whether Lee Seo-jun is the child of prophecy. He instructs her to begin by guiding them to him. A sudden warning rings out for Senior Min-ae to watch out. Lee Seo-jun charges in, his blade burning with golden light, intercepting the strike aimed at Seong-jin. Seong-jin brings his weapon down, forcing Min-ae back as she cries out. Lee Seo-jun advances and slashes, then catches Park Min-ae's wrist. Min-ae calls Lee Seo-jun's name in shock. Lee Seo-jun tells her to run inside. He reflects that he had wondered why Senior Min-ae was outside, but now it appears intruders entered after killing the Black Flame Mercenaries. If the thief's identity is a main then, his breathing falters, and a chill spreads through his bones. Song-jin stands surrounded by dark violet energy, one hand covering part of his face as power seeps outward. Without even exchanging full blows, Lee Seo-jun becomes certain from the overwhelming difference he feels throughout his body. He felt a terrifying power from Song-jin that is an S-rank man. A towering mass of dark violet energy rises behind Song-jin, forming the shape of a monstrous face with glaring eyes and jagged teeth. Lee Seo-jun concludes that if he fights, he will definitely die. Seong-jin acknowledges that Lee Seo-jun's judgment is excellent, but remarks that this likely is not the power of exorcism. A subordinate reports that the mercenaries standing guard near the mansion have been wiped out down to the last one. Song-jin orders them to kill all the remaining students except for Lee Seo-jun, stating that it is the king's order. He adds that he will not allow any variables. Inside, Yu-ara reacts in shock at the mention of an S-rank main. Lee Seo-jun reports that the Black Flame mercenaries have been annihilated, and other mains have swarmed in to surround the mansion. He then asks Senior Min-ae if she saw it as well. Min-ae confirms that it would have been dangerous if not for Junior Seo-jun. Lee Seo-jun responds that anyone in that position would have done the same. Shin remains silent, tears running down his face. A thought arises in his mind about a love triangle of Sunwoo liking Min-ae and Min-ae liking Lee Seo-jun. Lee Seo-jun states that they need to request outside help and asks about Miss Charlotte. Yu-ara replies that Miss Charlotte left a few hours ago to buy art supplies. Min-ae remains silent. She looks toward Lee Seo-jun and thinks that she wants to kill him this instant, but facing the enemies head-on would be suicide. She also acknowledges that she cannot defy Lord Seong-jin's orders. Shin shouts that they are in the mountains, so the phones do not even work. Lee Seojun asks Kim Sunwoo what he thinks while Shin mutters that it is hopeless. They see the bed where Sunwoo is lying. Yuara pulls the blanket away and shouts at Kim Sunwoo to wake up, demanding how he can sleep in this situation. She freezes in confusion and calls his name as she sees that Sunwoo is not here. Lee Seojun declares that he will go look for him and rushes out of the room. The remaining students stand in silence. Elsewhere, Sunwoo grips a scroll tightly. He says that this is the last of it and activates the scroll. A blue magic circle forms as a system window appears. The window identifies the item as Demonic Beast. Summoning scroll of grade A classification. Summoning scroll. Description. Summons a powerful hell serpent that is loyal to the user. Duration, 3 minutes. Cooldown, 10 days. Durability, D. The system window shows subspace pocket capacity, 29.7 kilograms per 30 kilograms. Sunwoo stands before the display case as a blue portal-like light flickers in front of it. The sound of objects being stored echoes. He states that it is a clean sweep. He looks down and notes that there was nothing as valuable as a holy relic, but he managed to take some relic-grade items. He raises his hand toward the blue light and thinks that he just needs to get back in time. He explains that this incident concludes with the intervention of a third force rather than Lee Seojun or John. In the midst of all that chaos, John will not have the leisure to worry about these items. Sunwoo steps through the glowing portal, thinking that the third force that will clash with John is. He emerges through a doorway and immediately stops. A tall man stands before him. Sunwoo's eyes widen as he recognizes him as a main. The man, with blood smeared across his face and a blade in hand, smiles and says that he found one. The man rushes forward with a knife toward Sunwoo. Sunwoo twists aside as the blade passes him. The man swings again, forcing Sunwoo to duck and slide across the floor. Sunwoo questions why a demon is here and wonders where the plot went wrong this time. While moving, he reaches toward a glowing blue circle that appears beside him. His fingers touch it, and energy gathers around his arm. He spins and swings his weapon in a wide arc, releasing a blue slash toward the attacker. The system displays that a monster summoning scroll of grade A has been used, summoning a powerful hell serpent loyal to him. It is classified as a scroll, lasts 3 minutes, has a cooldown of 10 days, and durability D. He grips the glowing scroll as blue energy spreads outward. A massive serpent with glowing red eyes emerges and lunges forward. The serpent coils tightly around the attacker, wrapping his body and pinning his arms. The attacker groans and demands to know what this is. Sunwoo lets out a short laugh and explains that he brought it only to serve as a distraction but did not expect such a powerful serpent to appear. The serpent tightens its grip, squeezing harder as the attacker struggles and screams. Sunwoo walks forward calmly while the serpent continues crushing the attacker. Sunwoo holds a glowing blue sphere close to the attacker's face and tells him that from his mana, he seems to be about B rank. He adds that he will ask once more and wants a clear answer about his purpose for attacking this place. The attacker smirks and asks if Sunwoo really thinks he will tell him. He says they are all going to be killed by Lord Songjin anyway. Blood suddenly splashes across the wall. Sunwoo looks down at his hand and says he talks a lot for someone who refuses to say anything. He thinks that the fact they made it this far means the mercenaries guarding the perimeter have all been taken out. He adds that if veteran mercenaries were taken out instantly without a sound, then more demons must have come besides this guy. In his thoughts, Seongjin, the king's right-hand man, appears. Sunwoo questions why a villain who was not supposed to appear until much later is here leading a group of demons. He thinks he cannot let them clash with Lee Seojun. Elsewhere, Shin blocks an incoming attack with his weapon as a demon shouts that the humans are over there, ordering the others to kill them all. The demon shouts that the entrance is too narrow and they cannot all get in at once. A man holding purple energy in his hand pushes forward and orders others to move out of his way, saying he will do it. He thrusts his hand forward and releases a concentrated blast of purple power toward Shin. Shin braces himself as the attack closes in. A streak of fire cuts across the hall and collides with the purple blast. The impact explodes in the middle of the corridor, forcing the attacker's back and cracking the floor. Shin stares at the smoking ground in silence. He shouts that she should at least give a warning before shooting. Yuara stands nearby and tells him that with his skills, he should be able to dodge that easily. Yuara lets out a small laugh and thinks that unlike before, her attacks are actually landing now, and that her diligent training is paying off. She thinks that she is still lacking in firepower as the demons again rise from the ground. They charge again, shouting to kill everyone. Yuara warns that it is coming again and tells them to focus on what is in front of them. Shin grips his weapon and declares that he will protect Senior Minai. Minai says yes and thanks the juniors. She raises her hand and thinks to stay right where they are, saying she is going to wipe them all out and then kill Lee Seojun. A surge of power bursts forward. At the doorway, a blue barrier suddenly forms and blocks the attackers. The group inside stares in confusion. A powerful wave of blue energy sweeps down the corridor, tearing up the floor and walls. Shin, Yuara, and Senior Minai look ahead in shock and wonder what on earth this is. The long hallway is left split open with a deep trench carved through the center as debris settles. They all questions what is happening. Meanwhile, Lee Seojun clenches his fist and asks where Sunwoo has gone in a situation like this. He wonders if Sunwoo was taken out by a demon. From behind, Seongjin asks if he is on his way to save his comrades. Lee Seojin grips his weapon and recalls the S-rank demon he saw at the front gate. Seongjin, surrounded by dark energy, stands near the fountain and says he knew he would find Lee Seojin here. Seongjin raises his hand as dark energy coils around him and tells Lee Seojin to draw his sword. He adds that he will give him a chance to face him before he dies. Lee Seojin grips his weapon and acknowledges that Seongjin is an opponent he cannot defeat, but he cannot run away either. He steadies himself and prepares to move. Black energy spreads behind Seongjin as Lee Seojin dashes forward. Lee Seojin activates weapon enhancement, and his blade glows as he closes the distance. Seongjin blocks the strike with a surge of dark power. Lee Seojin grits his teeth and says he has to stop him from reaching the others. Seongjin swings down with force, and Lee Seojin meets the blow head-on. Their weapons collide with a loud impact. Seongjin's purple eye sharpens as he notes that a counterattack in that split second was interesting. He follows up immediately, striking again and knocking Lee Seojin backward across the floor. Seongjin tells Lee Seojin to give it a few more years, saying that then no demon will be able to stop him. He leaps down from above and brings his sword down. The blade crashes into the floor with a heavy impact as dark energy spreads. Lee Seojin pushes himself and dodges this attack by swiping. Seongjin looks at him and begins to say that even so. Lee Seojin stares back, breathing hard. Seongjin states that calling this the power of demon slaying is just a simple light attribute spell, and asks if that means Lee Seojin does not think he is a worthy opponent. Lee Seojin repeats the words power of demon slaying and demands to know what that is supposed to be. Seongjin tells him not to play dumb and charges forward wrapped in dark energy. An explosion erupts nearby, flames rising behind them. Seongjin declares that he came to this remote land under orders to kill the child of prophecy. He adds that if his king says Lee Seojin is the child of prophecy, then he just has to shut up and prove it. Lee Seojin feels the strain in his weapon and curses as he realizes his sword is reaching its limit. Seongjin looks down at Lee Seojin and asks if he really thought he could toy with him with such lies. Their blades grind against each other, sparks flying as Lee Seojin strains to hold the attack back. Lee Seojin admits that whether it is the power of ruin or the child of prophecy, he does not know anything about that. He swings his sword in a wide arc, forcing Seongjin back. Lee Seojin shouts that even if he did know, he would not tell him. Seongjin raises his sword overhead and declares that then Lee Seojin is useless. The massive blade of dark energy crashes down. Lee Seojin drops to one knee and blocks with his glowing weapon as a bright blue sphere of power gathers behind Seongjin. Seongjin notices the sudden presence and reacts. The concentrated blue shot pierces through the space between them, striking Seongjin and forcing him backward. Lee Seojin looks to the side, realizing it was a sniper, and asks who it is. Seongjin steadies himself after the shot and demands to know who dares interfere with his battle. From the upper floor, Sunwoo watches while leaning against the wall. He notes that the monstrous bastard avoided a fatal shot in a split second. The system displays amplified mana elixir, B, explaining that mana recovery speed increases by 50% for 5 minutes, and that once the duration ends, the user will suffer mana exhaustion for 30 minutes. The system also reports that due to the effects of the lesser mana concealment elixir, mana of grade C or lower will be concealed for 10 minutes. Sunwoo reflects that he even drank a potion on top of Heart of Great Nature and poured all his power into that attack. Still, system displays mana exhaustion. He realizes that the demons mistook Lee Seojin for the child of prophecy and wonders how that happened. Seongjin says that if the person hiding will not come out, he will slice through the entire building. Dark energy erupts from him and spreads across the courtyard. Lee Seojin stands his ground and thinks that he has to stop him somehow, but realizes there is nothing more he can do here. He concludes that now there is only one way left as the quiet night surrounds the large building. A powerful burst of golden lightning crashes down from above and strikes Seongjin. The energy explodes on impact, forcing Seongjin downward as bright light spreads across the courtyard. From the upper level, Sunwoo remains seated calmly while the explosion continues. Seongjin lands on the ground and turns toward the building. Dark energy leaks from his back as he accuses the attacker of striking from behind like a coward. He demands that the person reveal their identity and purpose. Below, Lee Seojin stands with his sword while debris and dust settle around them. The attacker answers that this is exactly what she wants to ask. Lee Seojin turns his head in surprise. All the comrades of Seongjin were taken down by the John group. Charlotte, surrounded by crackling lightning, steps forward and demands to know why they are targeting Lee Seojin. Sunwoo laughs quietly and explains that the plan is to pit one enemy against the other. He smiles slightly and declares that now they should kill each other. Seongjin immediately swings his blade, releasing a wave of dark energy towards Charlotte. The attack crashes downward, but Charlotte raises her lightning-charged power to meet it. Golden lightning erupts upward as she counters the strike. Charlotte then states that it seems he will not talk easily. A massive explosion of lightning bursts into the sky above the building. Charlotte dashes forward across the ground with lightning flashing around her feet. Seongjin rises into the air with dark energy swirling around his body and declares that those who interfere with the king's orders will all die. He rushes towards Charlotte through the air as dark energy spreads around him. Looking down with a cold expression, Seongjin repeats that all of them will die, A powerful clash echoes through the building as light bursts across the hall. Lee Seojun calls out to Miss Charlotte and realizes that she is fighting on equal footing with an S-rank demon. He stands near the glowing doorway as Shin runs toward him and asks if he is okay. Nearby, Yura looks around the damaged hall and says the situation is a complete mess. Lee Seojun explains that he almost died to the S-rank demon, but Miss Charlotte saved him. Shin looks confused and asks if Miss Charlotte was not supposed to be a civilian. He insists that they have to help her immediately. The group turns as Sunwoo appears on the staircase. He answers that getting out of the building comes first. They shout Kim Sunwoo's name and express relief that he is safe. Yura angrily demands to know where he had been. Sunwoo explains that he was hiding in a corner and tells them they should leave quickly. Yura asks if they are really planning to run away. She questions whether they should abandon Miss Charlotte and flee. Sunwoo hesitates and thinks that he cannot exactly say both of them are enemies. Minnie then states that Junior Sunwoo is right. Her hands tremble as she lowers her head and admits that after everything that happened earlier, she is very scared. Lee Seojun looks toward her and quietly calls out to Senior Minnie as she trembles and covers her face. Sunwoo wonders why Jong Ye, who is currently Senior Minnie, acting like that, and raises his hand as the others look at her. But Minnie admits that she cannot stand the sight of Kim Sunwoo, and Sunwoo is right this time. Outside, Charlotte and Seongjin continue fighting as lightning and dark energy collide in midair. Minnie thinks that with this unexpected variable, Lord Seongjin's mission is practically ruined, and that interfering now would only make things worse. She lowers her hands and says she must be the one to survive. She will build her strength and take revenge with her own hands. Sunwoo then tells the group that he found a way to sneak out and tells them to follow him. He thinks that Jiang Ye is up to her old tricks again. He starts running along the upper walkway, and the others follow behind him. He thinks that even in the current situation, neither he nor Lee Seojun can do anything. Sunwoo decides that it is time to leave. Outside, Charlotte slams a massive bolt of lightning down toward the ground. Songjin charges through the air with dark energy around his blade and clashes with the lightning attack. The two collide again in midair as Charlotte raises her lightning-covered hand to strike back. A bolt of lightning crashes down onto the ground, exploding against the pavement as Charlotte stands nearby with lightning surrounding her body. She reacts in surprise and wonders if it is dark transformation. More lightning strikes the ground in rapid succession, blasting the area as purple energy rises through the impact. Songjin leaps forward through the air, his body wrapped in dark power as he charges toward Charlotte. John Baek suddenly swings a large weapon upward, striking at Songjin from below. Charlotte lands on the ground behind him while lightning still crackles around her. Songjin turns toward the masked fighter and states that he believes he already said that he does not tolerate interference. John Baek responds by asking who exactly started interfering first. Songjin slashes downward with his blade, but suddenly Natasha comes and cuts Songjin's leg. Songjin observes that if they possess this much power, they must all be set-rank mages. Natasha swings again while Songjin twists his body to counter. He concludes that one of them must be the one who sniped him earlier. He suddenly regenerates his legs and stomps the ground, shouting for them to get lost as dark energy erupts beneath his feet. All the John's group members starts fighting Songjin. Watching this, Jin states that they have cleared out all the demons on the first floor and in the garden, and adds that Scar should be finishing clearing the second floor by now. Charlotte asks about Lee Seojun. Jin answers that he is safe and confirms that he left with the other students. She lowers her gaze slightly and admits that she had many things she wanted to ask. Looking ahead with a calm expression, she calls out to John Baek and Natasha and tells them to wrap this up. Songjin raises his weapon overhead and swings down toward the John Baek. Natasha steps in and blocks while blue energy gathers around his weapon. Songjin grits his teeth and curses. She steps forward and asks if he thought he would win just because he can regenerate. She rushes in with a sweeping slash. Songjin blocks the attack with his weapon and declares that he will kill her. A heavy blow strikes Songjin's side, making him recoil as blood bursts from the impact. John Baek rushes in and unleashes a rapid series of strikes, each hit slamming into Songjin's body. Songjin staggers under the barrage while shouting in anger. Another powerful strike lands directly on him, forcing his body downward. Songjin grits his teeth and curses the humans as dark energy surges around him. A massive explosion erupts on the roof of the building. In the garden below, all students run away from the building as flames rise behind them. Lee Seojun runs with the others but suddenly turns his head. He stops and looks back toward the building with a startled expression. That's it for now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Let me know your thoughts of this manhwa through comment section.